Chapter 899. Lung Shiqi, the king of the Western Baron, had broken through to the Sky Origin stage and shocked the entire Western Baron state. Everyone knew that he had defeated several Sky Origin stage cultivators when he was in the Unity of Heaven and Man stage. Now that he had broken through to the Sky Origin stage, how terrifying would his strength be? At least in the Western Baron state, there was almost no one who could match him. The people who had been criticizing Lung Shiqi immediately became obedient. In just a few days, the Western Baron Royal Palace had become the focus of the Western Baron state. Countless guests came to visit. It was 10 times more prosperous than before the Royal Palace had declined. It was very real and very realistic. This matter had caused a great shock in the imperial capital. The Dark Thunder Guards, the Discipline Commission, the court officials, and the Imperial Hall of Worship were all shocked. There was no other reason. Lung Shiqi was too young. It had only been a few years since he joined the Dark Thunder Guards. He had gone from an ordinary spiritual pulse stage cultivator to a Sky Origin stage cultivator who stood at the peak. Just this cultivation speed alone was unprecedented and would never be surpassed in the future. In addition to being shocked, the court officials were more terrified. Not long ago, they had tried to suppress the Western Baron Royal Palace. If Xian Haoying had not stood up, the Western Baron Royal Palace would have been destroyed. Now, Lung Shiqi had not only come back from the dead, but also immediately broken through to the Sky Origin stage. Whether it was strength or status, he was a supreme existence. If Lung Shiqi wanted to take revenge on them, it would be very easy. They did not know that the king they saw every day in the court was just a clone of Lung Shiqi. Lung Shiqi did not care about those people. At the moment, he was entertaining a guest, the leader of the Blood Garment Pavilion in the Western Baron State, Yi Xiao. Congratulations to the king of the Western Baron for breaking through to the Sky Origin stage and standing among the strong. Yi Xiao was a smiling old man. He had a very humble attitude. Lung Shiqi was very clear about Yi Xiao's intentions. He was from the Blood Garment Pavilion. Not only was he the king of the Western Baron, but he was also a Sky Origin stage cultivator. At the same time, he was also one of the 4 leaders of the Dark Thunder Guards. He alone was enough to promote the Blood Cloak Pavilion's Blood Seed plan. He dared to assert that the Night Owl was just an outpost, and the higher-ups of the Blood Garment Pavilion were probably already on their way here. Lung Shiqi said bluntly, "I know the purpose of your visit. Since I am from the Blood-Clothed Pavilion, I will do my best if something happens to my sect." These words made Yi Xiao feel relieved. After learning that Lung Shiqi had broken through to the Sky Origin stage, the General Pavilion of the Blood Robe Pavilion had immediately ordered him to test Lung Shiqi. After all, people changed. Lung Shiqi's strength and power had already exceeded the control of the Blood Garment Pavilion. If he was unwilling to complete the Blood Seed plan with the Blood Garment Pavilion, there seemed to be no better way than a fight to the death. From the looks of it, Lung Shiqi was not an ingrate. Since that's the case, I'll thank your highness in advance. The Pavilion Master and the others are on their way here. As for the specifics, they'll have to discuss it with your highness. However, it's not appropriate for them to enter the mansion openly. It doesn't matter. I'll welcome the Pavilion Master in advance. The Night Owl Pavilion can rest in the mansion for a few days. The Night Owl bowed and left. In just 7 days, Lung Shiqi sensed 3 auras of the Sky Origin stage approaching rapidly outside the spirit-sealing Strange Valley. His figure flashed, and he was dozens of miles away from the spirit-sealing Strange Valley. In front of him, 3 spiritual lights were shooting toward him. Disciple Lung Shiqi greets the Pavilion Master, Deputy Pavilion Master, and Master. Lung Shiqi stood in the air and cupped his fists. The 3 people who came were the Blood Garment Pavilion Master, Hateful Blade, Deputy Pavilion Master, Black Frost Ghost, and Wu Xiang. 2 of the 3 were the highest leaders of the Blood Robe Pavilion, and Wu Xiang was Lung Shiqi's master. They came together to show enough respect to Lung Shiqi. Hateful Blade and the other 2 secretly exchanged glances and found that Lung Shiqi's attitude was also very good. This was a very good start. Black Frost Ghost was the first to speak, the power of the Western Desolation King is not much weaker than the blood-robed pavilion. The word disciple is not something we can afford. Deputy Pavilion Master, you must be joking. I can be where I am today because of the great efforts of the sect. This is not the place to talk. Please come into the mansion. Lung Shiqi said modestly and quietly led the three to his study. From a beginning to the end, Pavilion Master Hateful Blade did not speak, but stared at Lung Shiqi. When Lung Shiqi first saw Hateful Blade, he found that he was already at the peak of the Sky Origin stage. Adding to his proficiency in assassination, there were not many spirit cultivators below the spirit comprehending stage that could escape from his assassination. Hateful Blade's body in particular had a very weak aura of law lingering around it. He should have found his own path and knocked on the door to the spirit comprehending stage. Of course, he could only be considered to have found a way, but breaking through to the spirit comprehending stage was still far away. The reason why Hateful Blade paid so much attention to Lung Shiqi was not because of anything else, but because he felt that the aura on Lung Shiqi's body was very strange. Hateful Blade had killed many Sky Origin stage cultivators, so he was very sensitive to auras. Lung Shiqi's aura did not seem to belong to the Sky Origin stage. Lung Shiqi's body seemed to be surrounded by countless invisible mysterious fog, making it impossible for others to see through. In fact, Lung Shiqi's realm was indeed not the Sky Origin stage, but neither was it the Spirit Comprehending stage, nor was it the Spirit Comprehending stage. Even he himself did not know what realm he was in. It could be said that he had already broken the inherent division of realms. He had grasped several types of laws, and had also passed the Spirit Comprehending Tribulation and even the Heavenly Death Tribulation. However, the Spirit Comprehending Tribulation had ended before it began, so he was not in the Spirit Comprehending stage. It could only be said that he was in between the Spirit Comprehending stage and the Spirit Comprehending stage. Perhaps when he completely mastered the law of reincarnation and the power of world destruction, he would not be inferior to the Spirit Comprehending stage. When they arrived at the study, Ink Frost Ghost went straight to the point. The King of the Western Desert must have already guessed our purpose of coming here. We are preparing to complete the Blood Seed plan, and the King of the Western Desert is the most important part of it. Lung Shiqi was also very straightforward. If there's anything you need me to do, just let me know. We plan to rise up in a year and announce to the world that the Blood Garment Pavilion has walked out of the darkness and will no longer be a sword hidden in the darkness. Only in this way can the Blood Garment Pavilion advance further. This is the wish of generations of our people. At that time, who knows how many sects and forces in the world will come to suppress the Blood Garment Pavilion. After all, over the years, countless people have died at our hands. Those grudges will not disappear, they will only accumulate. Once they explode, it will be very terrifying. You only need to do two things. First, try to control the sects and forces in your jurisdiction as much as possible. Don't let them come to attack the Blood Garment Pavilion, especially the first-rate sects and top sects. Second, if possible, I hope you can hide your identity and help us. Chapter 900. Lung Shiqi agreed to Ink Frostghoul Man's request without any hesitation. His straightforwardness caught the other party off guard. They had prepared a lot of good things, and had even brought Wu Xiang along. They wanted to use all kinds of methods to get Lung Shiqi to cooperate with them. At this moment, even Wu Xiang felt that he had misjudged Lung Shiqi. After all, in his impression, Lung Shiqi was definitely someone who would not act unless there was an incentive. Ink Frostghoul Man was still a little worried. He said, "Does the King of the Western Wilderness not have any conditions?" Lung Shiqi smiled. "It's my duty to help the sect. However, since the Vice Pavilion Master has spoken, I do have a small condition. Go ahead. If the Blood Garment Pavilion can survive this crisis, I will have made a great contribution. Therefore, I want to be a Pavilion Master candidate." Pavilion Master candidate. Currently, in the Blood Garment Pavilion, Wu Xiang, Feng Shamo, and Hua Luiwe were all Pavilion Master candidates. Among them, Wu Xiang had already broken through to the sky origin stage. It was said that Hua Luiwei was in seclusion and might break through at any time. Although Feng Shamo's cultivation was low, he was the Pavilion Master's direct disciple. It was hard to say who among the three would get the position of Pavilion Master. Of course, this would all have to wait until the Blood Garment Pavilion survived this crisis. Lung Shiqi's condition was to be the fourth candidate. In terms of cultivation, he and Wu Xiang were both in the sky origin stage. Speaking of which, as Wu Xiang's disciple, he wanted to compete with Wu Xiang for the position of Pavilion Master. If it were anyone else, they would have turned hostile and called him an ingrate on the spot. However, Wu Xiang smiled and said, "You actually have this idea. That's great. Pavilion Master, I'm willing to give up the position of Pavilion Master candidate and give it to Lung Shiqi." Hen Dao spoke for the first time. If the sect can complete the Blood Seed plan, the Pavilion has nothing else to ask for and will naturally step down from the position of Pavilion Master. The candidates are recommended by the higher-ups of the sect. How can they be given up just like that? You master and disciple competing openly will be a good story. His words tacitly agreed with Lung Shiqi's conditions. The two sides quickly reached a consensus. Hateful Blade and the other two did not speak any more nonsense. With Lung Shiqi's promise, they should go back and prepare. After sending the three away, Lung Shiqi began to make plans for himself. The reason he wanted to become a Pavilion Master candidate of the Blood Garment Pavilion was so that he could enter the Blood Garment Pavilion in the future. Whether it was Feng Shamo, Hua Luiwei, or Wu Xiang, there was no doubt that their cultivation talents were the best. Unfortunately, all three of them had some flaws in their personalities. Wu Xiang's temper was too casual, Feng Shamo was too extreme, and Hua Luiwei only cared about cultivation. There was nothing good or bad about a person's character, but if he were to become the sect leader of a top sect, then he would not be able to do it. For example, Hateful Blade's personality was very similar to Hua Luiwei's. He only knew how to cultivate in seclusion all day long. Most of the affairs of the Blood Garment Pavilion were managed by the Deputy Pavilion Master, Black Frost Ghost. In this way, it would be easy for the internal division of power to occur. Fortunately, the Blood Garment Pavilion was wholeheartedly devoted to the Blood Seed plan. Otherwise, the Blood Garment Pavilion would have fallen into internal strife long ago. Therefore, Wu Xiang and the other two were not very suitable to succeed the position of Pavilion Master. However, Lung Shiqi was different. Not only was his cultivation talent monstrous, but he was also in charge of the Dark Thunder Guards and the Western Wilderness Imperial Palace. With such a person leading the Blood Garment Pavilion, Hateful Blade would be relieved to step down. This was also the reason why Wu Xiang and Hateful Blade immediately agreed to Lung Shiqi's condition. Lung Shiqi had a very big plan in mind. He needed the Blood Garment Pavilion's powerful intelligence and assassination abilities. He was determined to get the Blood Garment Pavilion. The uprising of the Blood Garment Pavilion would happen a year later, and this year could not be wasted. He planned to upgrade the Mansion of the Dead as soon as possible during this year. After receiving the memories of the Reincarnation Master, his use of the law of reincarnation had reached its peak. He only needed to slowly adapt to it. Every time the Mansion of the Dead was upgraded, it would bring about a huge change. It was also a huge variable. The next upgrade of the Mansion of the Dead required about 50,000 merit points. He had to start a war. The three empires of the Starfall continent had just stabilized. It was impossible to start a war rashly, so he could only attack the 6 empires of the western region. It's time to annex the Bailu country. While Lung Shiqi was planning, he suddenly felt several strange fluctuations in the Mansion of the Dead. He immediately teleported into the Mansion of the Dead and saw a scene that surprised him. At this time, the Mansion of the Dead was covered with dark clouds. These are not ordinary dark clouds. They were emitting a strong heavenly might. Lung Shiqi was familiar with this aura. It was the Tribulation Cloud. The Tribulation Cloud was full of strange black lightning, and it was condensing above the Dark Beast Ridge. Lung Shiqi was just about to go and check it out when he saw 4 lightning strikes instantly. At the same time, 4 different screams came from the dark beast ridge. There are demonic beasts going through the tribulation. There's more than one. Lung Shiqi was a little incredulous. Is it Lu Ho and the other rank 6 demonic beasts? Strange. Why would the tribulation cloud appear in the mansion of the dead? Heavenly tribulation was a divine punishment from the will of heaven and earth for something that should not exist. When the demonic beasts cultivated to rank 7, they could take human form and control heaven and earth origin energy. They were completely separated from their original form of existence. If it were the outside world, Lung Shiqi would not be so surprised. Lu Ho and the other rank 6 demonic beasts were the strongest group of demonic beasts in the demonic Miasma mountain range. They had also absorbed a large amount of netherworld energy in the mansion of the dead and had undergone many changes. It was reasonable for them to have a chance to break through to rank 7. The strange thing was that they were actually going through the tribulation in the mansion of the dead. The mansion of the dead could only be regarded as a secret realm. It was a small independent space, but there were no heaven and earth laws. It was impossible for heavenly tribulation to exist. However, everything in front of him could not be fake. Moreover, the lightning was not the purple lightning that Nine Leave had when he was going through the tribulation cloud. It was black lightning. This meant that the mansion of the dead was not a simple spatial secret realm. There were complete heaven and earth laws inside. In other words, the mansion of the dead was clearly a small world. So that's how it is. The mansion of the dead can send souls into the cycle of reincarnation. This shows that the mansion of the dead is special. I should have thought of it earlier. This change made Lung Shiqi even more eager to upgrade the mansion of the dead. What would it be like when a mansion of the dead was upgraded to the final stage? He was looking forward to it. Lung Shiqi stood in midair and continued to observe the situation in the Dark Beast Ridge. The second lightning in the tribulation cloud was brewing. He did not make a move. As the Lord of the Mansion of the Dead, he could make these tribulation clouds dissipate at any time. However, Lu Ho and the others could not break through to rank 7. If they wanted to obtain greater power, they had to pay a price. Whoosh! Black lightning rolled down. The second, third, and finally, the tribulation cloud dissipated. 3 roars of beasts pierced the sky from the Dark Beast Ridge. Chapter 901. Lung Shiqi arrived at the Underworld Beast Ridge in a flash and saw 3 people. The first person was a young man. He was not tall, and there was a tuft of yellow hair at the front of his short black hair. He was scratching his ears and cheeks as he looked around. Not far from him was a skinny middle-aged man with a gloomy face. It was written on his face that strangers should not come near him, especially his pair of eagle-like eyes, which were daunting. The last person was a little girl in a long green dress. She had a pretty face and looked like a pretty girl from a humble family. After Lung Shiqi appeared, the 3 of them knelt on the ground at the same time and shouted respectfully, "Lu Ho greets the master. Een Falcon greets the master. Ching greets the master." They were the monkey, the strange bird, and the green snake. They turned into human forms after passing the heavenly tribulation in the underworld. Passing the heavenly tribulation in the underworld was equivalent to gaining the recognition of the underworld. As the master of the underworld, Lung Shiqi was naturally their master. Lung Shiqi waved his hand gently, and a gentle force lifted the 3 of them up. You guys passed the heavenly tribulation so quickly and became 7th level monsters. I wonder how many times stronger you are than a mixed demon sable and the Star Moon heavenly winged tiger. Congratulations. The 3 of them had passed the heavenly tribulation, which meant that he had 3 more experts in the Tianyuan realm in his hands. Although the power of the Tianyuan realm was nothing to Lung Shiqi, he could not do many things at once. It was not convenient for him to do many things. With the help of these 3 people, he could finally save a lot of trouble. Lu Ho smiled and said, "Our power was given to us by the master. It's a pity that the old ape lost an arm. Otherwise, we would have a good chance." There were 4 of them during the heavenly tribulation. Among them, The giant ape with a broken arm died under the last heavenly tribulation. In the past, less than 1 in 10 survived the heavenly tribulation. It was a miracle that 3 out of 4 had passed. Lung Shiqi narrowed his eyes. He was surprised to find that the power of Lu Ho and the other two was unusually stable. There should be a short period of weakness after passing the heavenly tribulation. They needed to consolidate their realm. However, the strength of these three was not only stable, but also far surpassed that of ordinary 7th-rank great demons. Lung Shiqi said, "Lu Ho, from now on, you will be in charge of the underworld Beast Ridge. You can also explore the surrounding mountains as you wish. Falcon, you go and guard the Western Wasteland Mansion. As for Qing, she will stay with me for the time being. There are hundreds of demonic beasts in the Dark Beast Ridge." These demonic beasts had survived the catastrophe of the demonic Miasma mountain range. Each and every one of them was an elite. Moreover, after entering the underworld, they had continuously absorbed the netherworld energy. Their bodies had more or less undergone some changes. It could be said that every demonic beast had great potential. Lu Ho had experience in this area, and his ability was also very suitable for managing Dark Beast Ridge. Lu Ho believed that Dark Beast Ridge would become an extremely important force in his hands in the future. The Palace of the West Baron always lacked a Sky Origin Stage cultivator. Once Lung Shiqi left, the Palace of the West Baron would be empty. Finally, there was someone to help him. As for Qing, he needed her by his side for the next few places he was going to. Besides, it's not bad to have a little girl by my side. As for Lu Ho, Falcon, and Falcon, they were all very happy. Lu Ho's management of Dark Beast Ridge meant that he was given an important position. He had become the ruler of Dark Beast Ridge. Falcon was guarding the Palace of the West Baron. The fact that he could guard such an important place meant that Lung Shiqi trusted him a lot. The most special one was Qing. Although she didn't get any power or mission, being able to stay with Lung Shiqi was the biggest gift and benefit. After that, Lung Shiqi brought Falcon and Qing to the Palace of the West Baron. He summoned everyone in the Palace of the West Baron. Hundreds of people gathered. When they saw Falcon and Qing standing behind Lung Shiqi, they were all shocked. Falcon crossed his arms and lowered his head without saying anything. Qing stood there quietly, as if she was a little shy. The two of them didn't hide their aura. The strong and violent demonic chi was surging. Even though they were just standing there, the people in the Palace of the West Baron were frightened. What surprised them even more was, where did the two of them come from? Why did they seem to be obedient to Lung Shiqi? Lung Shiqi gestured. Falcon and Qing withdrew their aura. Only then did the people in the Palace of the West Baron start to breathe smoothly. They all began to wipe their sweat. Let me introduce them. These two are the Sky Origin Stage cultivators that I have recruited, Falcon and Qing. Greetings, my lords. Everyone saluted respectfully. This was the respect for the strong cultivators. The old people in the Palace of the West Baron were excited. Not long ago, Lung Shiqi had broken through to the Sky Origin Stage. Now, there were 2 more Sky Origin Stage cultivators in the Palace of the West Baron. This power was enough to compete with the top forces. Lung Shiqi continued, "I've called you all here to get to know each other. Falcon will be cultivating in seclusion in the Palace of the West Baron. If there is nothing important, don't disturb him. Also, don't tell anyone about this. Disperse." "Yes, my lord." Everyone dispersed. Lung Shiqi prepared a secret room for the Falcon, right next to Ozu. However, Ozu seemed to still be in seclusion. When he found out that he had a 7th-level great demon as his neighbor, he did not know how he would feel. After that, he left the Palace of the West Baron with Qing. They went straight to the border fortress where the Azure Thunder Army was stationed. Soon, a group of generals gathered in the main hall of the Azure Thunder Army. "Greetings, my lord." They didn't know why Lung Shiqi was here. However, he was a Sky Origin Stage cultivator. Nobody dared to slight him. Not to mention that there was a woman standing behind Lung Shiqi. She looked weak but her aura was very scary. Two Sky Origin Stage cultivators came at the same time. It was obvious that they didn't come with good intentions. The commander, Xiahou Ba, was in seclusion. Only two Sky Origin Stage deputies were here. In terms of status, they were much lower than Lung Shiqi. Therefore, if Lung Shiqi was in trouble, they couldn't do anything. "My lord, you have come from afar. However, the commander is in seclusion and can't come out to welcome you. Please don't blame him." The one who spoke was Deputy Commander Xiaoheng. He was from the same family as Xiahou Ba. Now, most of the power in the Azure Thunder Army was in his hands. This sentence was nothing more than bringing up Xiahou Ba to make Lung Shiqi hesitate. Lung Shiqi chuckled and said, "You all look a little nervous." Xiaoheng laughed awkwardly. Lung Shiqi had a bad reputation. In the eyes of others, he was definitely an ambitious man. Now that he had broken through to the Sky Origin Stage, the Azure Thunder Army was undoubtedly the biggest threat to him in the West Baron Prefecture. He must be here to suppress the Azure Thunder Army, while Xiahou Ba was in seclusion. Lung Shiqi ignored their wild thoughts. He flipped his hand and took out a golden token. He said in a deep voice, "Under His Majesty's orders, I am to mobilize 20,000 Green Thunder Army soldiers." Xiahou Ying and the others were shocked when they saw the token. Thunder Fire Sword Seal. Chapter 902. Every commander had a tiger talisman to mobilize the troops, and the Thunder Fire Sword Seal was something that could command all the troops in the Thunder Fire dynasty. These things were tightly held by the emperor and could not be easily given to others. Therefore, when Lung Shiqi took out the Thunder Fire Sword Seal, the generals were all in disbelief. "Why, General Xiahou, do you not recognize this item?" "Ah, no, of course I recognize the Thunder Fire Sword Seal. I will personally count the 20,000 elite troops for your highness." Xiahou did not dare to disobey the Thunder Fire Sword Seal, but she still did not understand why the emperor would give such an important item to Lung Shiqi. Also, what was Lung Shiqi planning to do with the 20,000 elite troops? Lung Shiqi said, "After counting, let them disguise themselves as caravans and enter Zhu Lu country. They must reach the Zhu Lu country's imperial city within 2 months. There will be people there to receive them." Hearing this, the generals were even more confused. Let the Azure Thunder Army disguise themselves and enter Zhu Lu country? Even though Zhu Lu country and the Thunderfire dynasty were allies, Zhu Lu country was very weak in terms of national strength. How could they let the Thunderfire dynasty's Azure Thunder Army enter their country? Were they not afraid of being swallowed by the Thunderfire dynasty? Some people noticed something. Lung Shiqi said that there would be people in Zhu Lu country to receive them. This meant that the Thunderfire dynasty and Zhu Lu country had secretly reached a deal. Then why did Zhu Lu country take the risk to invite a wolf into their country? Xiahou vaguely guessed something. Lung Shiqi said deeply, "General Xiahou, there are some things that you should pretend to be ignorant of. Do you understand?" "I understand." Lung Shiqi nodded with satisfaction. He wanted to use the name of the Zhu Road country to attack the Bei Lu country. 2 years ago, the Zhu Road country had defeated the Bei Lu country, and in the past 2 years, the Zhu Road country had obtained a huge amount of refined iron from the West Baron Prefecture. Their weapons and equipment were far superior to the Bei Lu country. In theory, Zhu Lu country had a high chance of winning if they attacked Bei Lu country. However, even if they won, the Great Moon Kingdom, which was on the other side of the Bei Lu Kingdom, would most likely reap the benefits. After all, the war between the two countries would not end overnight. The Great Moon clan would sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. No matter who won, their strength would be greatly damaged. By then, Zhu Lu country and Bei Lu country would belong to the Great Moon clan. In order to prevent this from happening, Lung Shiqi had to let Zhu Lu win, and he had to do it quickly. If he wanted to do that, he would have to rely on the Green Thunder Army. The 20,000 soldiers of the Green Thunder Army were not something the armies of the Zhu Lu nation and the Bei Lu nation could compare to. They were not even on the same level. In fact, the 20,000 soldiers of the Green Thunder Army were more than enough to take down the Bei Lu nation. After making the necessary arrangements, Lung Shiqi immediately contacted Hungming with Qing, and teleported to Tianshan County, where the Purgatory Demon Sect was located. His purpose was to go to the Netherworld Temple. Now, he was not only the master of Samsara, but also the new Netherworld Saint Lord. The power of the Nether Temple was naturally his power as well. Among the members of the Mansion of the Dead, only Hungming was located closer to the South Sea, where the Netherworld Temple was located. What surprised Lung Shiqi was that Hungming had also broken through to the unity of heaven and man realm. It seemed that after they obtained their own inheritance treasures, their cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. Hungming did not think that his cultivation speed was very fast. Compared to Lung Shiqi, he was still too slow. He mentioned the Bloodseed Project. Recently, the people of the Blood Garment Pavilion secretly contacted me. They said that the Bloodseed Project is about to be completed. Is it too hasty? Lung Shiqi smiled. Let's follow the Blood Garment Pavilion's plan. I have already arranged everything. You only need to deal with the Purgatory Demon Sect. Hungming nodded thoughtfully and then went back on his own. Lung Shiqi's figure flashed and teleported hundreds of miles away, as if he had teleported across space. In less than half a day, he arrived at the South Sea. This was a sea region lacking in resources. It was very different from the East Sea. He looked at the boundless sea and formed a few seals. Then, the surging sea suddenly expanded in all directions, revealing an abyss-like entrance. Lung Shiqi walked through the entrance. The scene in front of him turned into a giant palace the size of a small mountain. Tap, tap. His footsteps traveled very far. The palace was very empty. It seemed that there was not a single person in it. Lung Shiqi was not confused. He had absorbed the memories of the Samsara Lord and knew that the Nether Temple was similar to the Juga family. They both used a secret technique to seal the masters of each generation, leaving only a few alive to maintain the operation. In this generation, there were 3 people from the Nether Temple. Unfortunately, they had all died in the Northern Wei Empire. They were the 3 people whose lives were taken by the Nether Temple Lord after Lung Shiqi's death. In other words, there was not a single person in the Nether Temple. After walking past layers of arrays, Lung Shiqi pushed open a heavy black stone door. Immediately, a decaying aura gushed out from within. The space behind the door was very large. There were thousands of black tombstones in it. Each tombstone was engraved with a name and cultivation realm. Yu Hanqing, Tongxian realm. Yu Julin, Tongxian realm. Counting carefully, there were actually 6 Tongxian realm experts who had been slumbering in this place. There were only 8 Tongxian realm masters in the world, including Lung Shiqi, the Samsara Lord. In addition, there were hundreds of Tianyuan realm masters. The rest were all in the unity of heaven and men realm. As long as Lung Shiqi activated the seals, they could be awakened and used by him. Together with the Juga family, the Thunderblaze dynasty, the Mansion of the Dead, and the Bloodrobe Pavilion in the future, Lung Shiqi's power had reached a terrifying level. He was not far from the goal in his heart. However, Lung Shiqi did not awaken any masters of the Dark Shadow clan. Before he took that step, neither the Nether Temple nor the Juga family could be used. Once he was discovered, he would immediately become the public enemy of the entire Falling Star continent. If he did that, it would only force him to take that step. He absolutely could not do it before he was fully prepared. These forces are still not enough. The only forces on the continent that can be used are the East Sea and the far north wastelands. The East Sea was very rich in cultivation resources and covered a large area. It was located in both the Thunderblaze dynasty and the Northern Wei dynasty, so it was hard to say which dynasty it belonged to. The forces there were built in the form of islands. The distance between the islands was quite far. For a long time, the situation was relatively stable and there were not many conflict between them. In general, the overall forces of the EC were not weak, but not very strong either. As for the far north wastelands, it was the world of the Monster Clan. 9 Leave had already traveled there. Lung Shiqi had Qing, and the other 2 7th-rank monsters by his side. He also had the bloodline of the monster clan in his soul. Compared to the East Sea, the far north wastelands was more suitable for his next target. Chapter 903. Bailu Country, Bloodcloak Pavilion, Northern Wilderness. These were the forces that Lung Shiqi wanted to fight for, and each of them had their own uses. Lung Shiqi flicked his finger, and a wisp of black gas floated out. The black gas turned into a black silk and shrouded the entire hall. He added another restriction on the original formation. As long as people without Dark Shadow bloodline got close, they would die without a doubt. Although his previous body had been destroyed, the bloodline power flowed in his soul. Even after several reincarnations, it still existed. 2 months later, in the palace of Zhu Lu Country, Queen Carol said to the black-robed man next to her, "Other than the necessary defenses, the 40,000 troops are ready to go. What's the plan this time?" Lung Shiqi said, "The plan is simple. The Indian Army and the Ground Army will go straight to Bailu Country's border. The Green Thunder Army will stay 100 miles behind. When Bailu Country is desperate, we will defeat them in one fell swoop. Bailu Country's army is not a threat, but there are 3 sky origin experts in their Hall of Worship, while Zhu Lu Country only has 2. Zhu Lu Country originally had 4 sky origin experts. When Lung Shiqi helped Carol fight for the throne, he killed the shocking Dragon Sword King and Divine Firmament Venerable. Only Qing Lin and Zhong Guanqing were left. Bailu Country also had 4 sky origin experts in the beginning. Both sides were equal in strength. Among them, the Rain Formation Heavenly Master was killed by Lung Shiqi not long ago. Let Qing Lin and Zhong Guanqing fight. I have sky origin experts on my side. Bailu Country will not be able to do anything. We just need to take down Bailu Country before Great Moon Country makes a move. Then I'm relieved. Soon, Zhu Lu Country's army came out and attacked Bailu Country's border. Bailu Country could not resist at all and could only retreat. Within a few days, Zhu Lu Country had occupied 1/3 of the country's territory. Bailu Country's King Kirk was shocked. Zhu Lu Country's Indian Army and Ground Army's combat power was far beyond what he knew, but he could not panic. We have lost the territory. Don't fight for it. Pass down the order, give up all the cities in the periphery. Deploy all the military forces in the cities around the capital, defend the cities, and support each other. In addition, quickly send people to the Great Moon Empire to ask for help. No matter what conditions they raise, we can agree to them first. Everything can wait until we defeat the Zhu Lu Empire. This time, Zhu Lu Country's momentum was too fierce. Kirk decisively gave up on most of the cities, gathering all of his forces to defend and wait for the attack. As long as he could get reinforcements from the Great Moon Kingdom, the Zhu Lu Kingdom would naturally be defeated. As for how they would explain it to the Great Moon Kingdom, that was a matter for another time. It was good enough to get through the current hurdle first. A few days later, the Zhu Lu Country's army arrived at the city. However, this city was not so easy to take down because there were 30,000 soldiers from the Bailu Country station here, as well as many experts. Lung Shiqi looked at the high city walls and said slowly, "As long as we take this city, Bailu Country will lose its momentum. If we attack by force, we may be able to barely take down the city, but we will also suffer heavy losses. It is said that the Great Moon Empire has already sent troops." Queen Carol was still a little worried. She believed that Lung Shiqi was extremely powerful, but as a member of the underworld and the queen of Zhu Lu Country, she knew that it was not easy to be the ruler of a country in the past 2 to 3 years. She also knew how much it cost to train an army. She was really unwilling to lose too many troops. The Great Moon Empire has indeed sent troops, but their marching speed is too slow. They just want both countries to suffer heavy losses. Don't worry about them. Don't forget that there are still 20,000 Green Thunder Army behind them. They will arrive soon. Now we only need to feign an attack and see what other trump cards they have. Moreover, the experts of the underworld are also here. You don't have to worry at all. Give the order to attack the city. In a room in the city tower, Kirk looked at the black mass of Zhu Lu Country's army outside the city. When he saw Carol's figure, he pointed and said, "Three lords, she is the queen of Zhu country, Carol. As long as she gives the order to attack the city, three lords can take advantage of the chaos to kill her. Zhu country will be like a headless dragon and will be defeated." Among the three, a red-robed old man frowned and said, "Zhu country has turned out in full force. The heavenly origin realm experts of the Royal Hall of Worship must be hiding in the dark. They might even be by Carol's side. Killing her is easier said than done." How could Kirk not understand this? But killing Carol was the only way. There was no other way. He could only brace himself and say, "Lord Shiryan, 2 years ago, the spies in Zhu country brought back information. When Carol and Gus fought for the throne, there was a fierce battle. The heavenly origin realm experts of the Zhu country's Royal Hall of Worship must have suffered some losses. If we take them by surprise, we still have a chance." The one called Shiryan sighed. "Let's do as the monarch says. However, if the sneak attack fails, we will have to fight with the experts of Zhu country. No matter how many there are on the other side, at that time, there will be no one to protect the monarch. As long as we can kill Carol, this emperor's comfort is nothing. This emperor has already left behind a will. Even if I die here, there will be someone to inherit the throne. Kill." Suddenly, there was a burst of shouts from outside. Zhu country has begun to attack the city. All of a sudden, giant crossbows were set up on top of the city walls. Each bolt was nearly 20 feet long. Such a weapon could probably take away the lives of dozens of people if it were to be released. In the previous battle, the Zhu country had never used them. At the beginning, they did pose a great threat to the Zhu country. However, a few black figures suddenly burst out from the crowd. A blood-red sword light appeared. In an instant, blood chi rose and the sword light streaked across the city walls. The incomparably tough city walls were easily cut open like tofu. The large crossbows on the walls were all turned into fragments. At the same time, the clear sky was instantly covered by a boundless curtain of darkness. Under this curtain of darkness, not only could the eyes not see, even the five senses were taken away. A blade hidden in the darkness was like a ghost in the night. Every blade easily took the life of a general on the city walls. The ones who attacked were Delta, Orgi, Yushu, and Meng Meng. They were now at the union of heaven and man realm. Although they were at the early stage of the union of heaven and man realm, their true battle strength was definitely not weaker than the late stage of the union of heaven and man realm. The three of them killed their way up the city walls like ghosts and wantonly massacred. Although there were some union of heaven and man realm experts attacking them, the military equipment on the city walls were all destroyed. Kirk was shocked and angry. He also felt that this seemed to be an opportunity. He said in a low voice, "My three lords, this matter should not be delayed. Carol will definitely think that we have completely panicked. Now is the best time to kill her." Meng Ming's curtain of darkness could not stop the heaven origin realm experts. They could still lock onto Carol's position. Shiryan hesitated and said, "Your Majesty, those three are very strong. They might discover you." Kirk's eyes turned red. "We can't care about that. Kill Carol first." Chapter 904. Boom! A heat wave spread for thousands of miles. Boundless flames tore through the darkness, and the origin energy of heaven and earth boiled. The entire battlefield became scorching hot. A figure stood in the sky, and a pitch-black saber appeared in his hand. The saber slashed through the air, and a fierce killing intent condensed into a storm that slashed toward Carol. Another person slapped out with a palm, and the origin energy of heaven and earth within a radius of hundreds of miles was controlled. A terrifying aura pressed down, and it was enough to suppress evil. The three Sky Origin Realm cultivators ignored the Delta Orgi and attacked Carol at the same time. Carol did not panic. A spiritual light flashed beside her, and a strange beast, Green Cheelin, roared out. On the other side, a torrent of water converged into a sea, instantly extinguishing the flames that filled the sky. These two were the two powerful cultivators of the Zhu Lu country's Imperial Hall of Worship, Green Qilin and Zhongguanqing. They blocked the flames and the palm, but the sabers still attacked Queen Carol. Kirk, who was hiding behind the city gate, was very excited. It seemed that Carol only had two Sky Origin Realm cultivators by her side. She would soon die here. What he did not expect was that the saber light was intercepted halfway by a wisp of green light. The green light did not look very eye-catching, and it attached itself to the saber light. In the blink of an eye, the saber light dissipated at a speed visible to the naked eye. The one who swung the saber light was a man with a scar. He shouted, "What is that thing? It can actually corrode my saber light." He focused his gaze and saw that a woman in green had appeared beside Queen Carol at some unknown time. Strange black patterns appeared on her face, and the aura she exuded was incomparably powerful. Another Sky Origin Realm cultivator. In a 3 versus 3 situation, it was impossible for them to kill Queen Carol. Their plan had failed in the end. Kirk's heart sank. If Carol did not die, and there were 3 Sky Origin Realm cultivators by her side, the Belu country would not be able to gain any advantage. The Sky Origin Realm cultivators on both sides could not kill each other, and they could only stay in a stalemate. But in this way, the city would soon be breached. Although Yushu and the other two were temporarily held back by the Dilu Nation's unity of Heaven Realm experts, one must not forget that there were quite a number of Zhu Lu Nation's unity of Heaven Realm experts as well. With their combat strength, it was not difficult for them to destroy the city walls. Kirk had begun to despair. The only thing he could hope for now was to wait for the reinforcements from the Great Moon Empire. He had to stall for time. Qing Lin said to Shi Yin, "Shi Yin, we are old friends. Is there a need to continue fighting?" Shi Yan's face darkened. Both sides had the same number of Sky Origin Stage cultivators. Even though there were differences in cultivation levels, Shi Yin knew that he had no confidence in defeating Zhu Luwa and the other two. Moreover, if they were to fight here, even the slightest ripple would affect the battle below. Not only would it harm the Zhu Lu army, it would also destroy the city. It would be disadvantageous for both sides. Therefore, Shi Yin silently agreed with Qing Lin's words. Since neither of them could do anything to the other, why should they fight? If they really fought, they might even get injured. Even in the worst-case scenario, the destruction of the Bo Lu Nation would not affect Shi Yin and the others too much. After all, Sky Origin Stage cultivators would be treated as distinguished guests no matter where they went. If the Bo Lu Nation was destroyed, they could just go somewhere else. There was no need to sacrifice their lives for the Bo Lu Nation. Lung Shiqi, who was hiding in the dark and observing everything, secretly smiled. "You are smart. Unfortunately, your lives will be taken away in the end." The next upgrade of the Mansion of the Dead would not only require 50,000 merit points, but also 3 Sky Origin Stage cultivators' souls. Shi Yin and the other two were just right. Lung Shiqi would not let them go. Shi Yin chose to remain silent. His silence represented his choice. However, in the next moment, Shi Yin was shocked to find that an inexplicable suction force had entangled him. Before he could react, he was dragged into a strange space. The space seemed to be boundless. There was an endless starry sky above. It was as if he was in the middle of the universe. The strange thing was that the stars vaguely condensed into 6 huge nebulas that slowly rotated. The aura emitted from the nebulas made Shi Yin feel suffocated. Where is this? As a Sky Origin Stage cultivator, Shi Yin could not help but feel a little nervous. How strong was the person who could casually summon him into this space? He was not the only one. The other 2 Bo Lu Nation cultivators were also sucked into this space. They were even more shocked than Shi Yin. Shi Yin flipped his hand, and a blazing flame ignited. However, the flame was extinguished in an instant. Shi Yin and the other 2 found it hard to accept this scene. There is no atmospheric energy here. The strength of a Sky Origin Stage cultivator was that they could mobilize atmospheric energy. However, there was not even a trace of atmospheric energy here. They could only be said to be in the unity of heaven and man stage with sky, origin stage, spiritual energy. Who is this expert? I am Shi Yin. Perhaps there is some misunderstanding. Shi Yin was still trying to find a way to survive. Unfortunately, no one answered him. The 6 nebulas suddenly spun madly. Waves of power of law blocked them, and the 3 of them were unable to resist at all. They were instantly crushed into nothingness. At this moment, Lung Shiqi appeared. He said with satisfaction, "The combination of the law of reincarnation, the Star Tribe, and the Dark Shadow Tribe's secret technique is not bad. It is a little like a world of its own. Even if a common mystic stage cultivator was pulled into this 6 paths Dark Star realm, his strength would be suppressed by 30 to 40%. After collecting the souls of Shi Yin and the other 2, Lung Shiqi left the place. There was no longer any suspense in the battle between the 2 nations. In the outside world, everyone saw that Shi Yin and the other 2 had suddenly disappeared. At first, Qing Lin thought that they were using some secret technique to ambush them. However, Lung Shiqi's words rang in his ears. Shi Yin and the other 2 are dead. I'll leave this mess to you guys. Lung Shiqi flew into the sky. He did not plan to attack again. When Qing Lin heard this, the shock in his heart was indescribable. Those were 3 genuine heavenly origin stage cultivators. How could they be killed just like that? Moreover, they died in such a strange and casual way. They did not even know what had happened. He still remembered that during the Zhu Lu Kingdom's civil war, Lung Shiqi's strength was barely comparable to a late heavenly origin stage cultivator. How long had it been since then? He could easily kill 3 heavenly origin stage cultivators. At this moment, there was only one word in his heart for Lung Shiqi. That word was terrifying. Such a person must never be an enemy. Qing Lin even began to feel lucky that he had surrendered. Without the protection of a heavenly origin stage cultivator, the solid city wall of the Beilu Kingdom was instantly shattered like a piece of paper by Qing Lin's fist. Kirk, the king of Beilu Kingdom, was stunned. How could his greatest reliance, the 3 heavenly origin stage cultivators, suddenly disappear? He began to suspect that the 3 of them had betrayed him. Unfortunately, he did not have time to think about it. The Delta Orgi had discovered him. Following that, the Zhu Lu Kingdom's army marched in. A massacre began. Chapter 905. The city was breached. The king of Beilu Kingdom, Kirk, and all the Tianyuan realm cultivators of the Royal Hall of Worship were killed in the battle. Tens of thousands of soldiers were killed in the battle. Since then, Beilu Kingdom had no power to resist. Queen Carol stood in the ruins. She had never thought that it would be so easy to conquer Beilu Kingdom. Everything was meaningless in the face of absolute power. She was not immersed in the joy of conquering the city. Instead, she was puzzled. Why hadn't the 20,000 Green Thunder Army arrived yet? According to the time, the Green Thunder Army should have arrived 4 to 6 hours ago. Could something have happened to them? However, there was no one in Beilu Kingdom who could pose a threat to the 20,000 Green Thunder Army. Where had the Green Thunder Army gone? Carol suddenly realized that Lung Shiqi had not told her the whole truth. The Green Thunder Army could easily conquer Beilu Kingdom without the help of the Green Thunder Army. Therefore, the Green Thunder Army's target could only be the Great Moon Kingdom. It turned out that Lung Shiqi wanted to deal with both Beilu Kingdom and the Great Moon Kingdom at the same time. You must have guessed it. Lung Shiqi appeared beside Queen Carol. The Green Thunder Army is not needed for a mere Beilu Kingdom. This time, I will conquer both Beilu Kingdom and the Great Moon Kingdom in one fell swoop. He did not tell Queen Carol the truth, not because he did not trust her, but because he was afraid that she would not believe that he was so powerful. Carol looked nervous. The Great Moon Kingdom is not comparable to the Beilu Kingdom. In terms of military power, it is more than 3 times stronger than the Beilu Kingdom. At first, she wanted to tell him that the Great Moon Kingdom was not weak. However, when she thought of the scene where Lung Shiqi made the 3 Tianyuan realm cultivators disappear, she could not continue. For a powerhouse like Lung Shiqi, Military strength had already lost the meaning of numbers. Next, you have to take control of Bailu Kingdom quickly. I don't need to teach you how to do that. More importantly, you have to figure out how to take over the Great Moon Kingdom in advance. After Lung Shiqi finished speaking, he left Queen Carol with a complicated expression. He ordered the Green Thunder Army to go straight to the border of the Great Moon Kingdom. According to the intelligence, the Great Moon Kingdom sent 30,000 soldiers and were slowly approaching Bailu Kingdom. He believed that the news of the Bailu Kingdom's destruction would spread quickly. Regardless of whether they advanced or retreated, those 30,000 elite soldiers would not be able to return alive. If the Lung Shiqi wanted to kill them, it would be a piece of cake. However, attacking a country with only one person was not enough. Every time they conquered a city, they would have to send a portion of their troops to defend it. This was the biggest role of the Azure Thunder Army. With the marching speed of the Azure Thunder Army, it would take them 2 or 3 days to reach the border of the Great Moon Kingdom. During this short period of time, Lung Shiqi had something more important to do. Upgrade Hell. After conquering Bailu Kingdom, Lung Shiqi had obtained more than 60,000 merit points. He had also collected the souls of Shi Yin and the other two. He had finally met the requirements to upgrade Mansion of the Dead. He entered the Mansion of the Dead and clicked on the Territory Upgrade interface. Underworld Territory's current level, Rank 6, requirements for upgrading the territory of the Underworld. 1. Accumulate 100,000 merit points. 1148761000000. 2. Collect 10 top-level souls, 10 tenths. 3. 320,000 system coins. Mansion of the Dead has met the requirements to upgrade. It will take 500 natural days for the territory to upgrade. During this time, the territory will not be able to be used. Do you want to upgrade? Lung Shiqi bought a bunch of upgrade cards and chose yes. The space of the Mansion of the Dead shook continuously. Boundless black light spread in all directions. Soon, the Mansion of the Dead calmed down again. Lung Shiqi scanned it with his divine telekinesis and was stunned. The Rank 7 Mansion of the Dead was even bigger than the Falling Star Continent. It was not just a little bit bigger. It was several times bigger. In the past, every time the Mansion of the Dead was upgraded, it would expand. However, it had never expanded to such an extent. The current Mansion of the Dead could no longer be described as a secret realm. There had never been a secret realm that was bigger than the continent. However, what shocked Lung Shiqi even more was not the size of the Mansion of the Dead. With a thought, he arrived in a creepy and eerie forest. A pitch-black lizard-like monster with 4 horns and the size of a palm was lying on the ground in a daze. Whoosh! Lung Shiqi appeared in front of the little monster and looked at it carefully. He was sure that he was not in the underworld Beast Ridge. Instead, it was a place without any living creatures. So, where did this little thing come from? It was not just this little thing. In Lung Shiqi's divine telekinesis, thousands of strange creatures had been born in the Mansion of the Dead. Some were like demon beasts, some were like spirits, and some were like humans. In short, there were all kinds of strange creatures. The only thing they had in common was that each one was more eerie, vicious, and terrifying than the other. Moreover, there were many creatures being born at every moment. Swoosh, the little monster opened its eyes. It looked left and right. Its eyes were filled with confusion. It felt like there was something nearby. However, it could not see it now. It ran into the bushes in a panic. At this moment, Lung Shiqi had already arrived at a bottomless abyss. Countless black eggs were hidden in the abyss, and each of them contained a pure and violent ghostly aura. A boundless netherworld sea had appeared north of the Mansion of the Dead. Hundreds of different netherworld sea creatures had been born in it. Lung Shiqi walked around the Mansion of the Dead. His expression became more and more serious. At this moment, the Mansion of the Dead was like a small world. There was life, death, and reincarnation. This seemed to be a complete world. Moreover, the Mansion of the Dead was only rank 7. What would happen if it continued to level up? Would another world really appear? Lung Shiqi took a long time to digest this fact. He quickly opened the system and looked at the requirements for the Mansion of the Dead's upgrade. Mansion of the Dead's current level. Rank 7. Mansion of the Dead's upgrade requirements. 1. Accumulate 200,000 merit points. 1487 610 0000. 2. Collect 2 super souls. 0/2. 3. 640,000 system coins. The first and third requirements were within Lung Shiqi's expectations. However, the second requirement gave him a headache. In the past, he was asked to collect top-level souls that corresponded to divine origin experts. Wouldn't the super souls be Tongxian experts? He had to kill 2 Tongxian experts. With Lung Shiqi's current strength, it was not difficult for him to defeat a Tongxian expert by himself. However, the biggest problem was that there were no Tongxian experts for him to kill. On the Starfall continent, other than him, there were only 6 or 7 known Tongxian realm experts. These people were the greatest trump cards of the various transcendent forces. It was difficult to even meet them. Moreover, each Tongxian expert had mastered the laws of heaven and earth. They had lived for countless years. No one knew how many trump cards they had hidden. Kill them? It would only be possible if he could suppress them with absolute power and prevent them from escaping. He had to kill 2 of them. Chapter 906. Lung Shiqi thought about it again. There was still a chance. If the holy city really appeared, the Tongxian realm cultivators would definitely not give up this opportunity to explore. In other words, all the Tongxian realm cultivators on the mainland would gather in the holy city. Moreover, Lung Shiqi dared to say that there were definitely more Tongxian realm cultivators in the world. Who knew how many of them were hidden in the mountains and forests? If he joined forces with Meng Tianzong, there was indeed a very good chance. Putting this aside, he finally looked for any other changes in the territory system. Sure enough, he found a new function in the Rank 7 underworld, the underworld's divine gift. As the master of the underworld, Lung Shiqi could bestow a part of the underworld's power to the members of the underworld. For example, the ability to absorb souls. Other members could also absorb nearby souls and then absorb them into the underworld. This way, it was equivalent to all the members of the underworld helping him obtain merit points. Also, the underworld's divine power would gradually condense above the underworld's 9th heaven. Lung Shiqi could inject divine power into other people's bodies and directly increase their strength. This did not only include members of the underworld, but also creatures of the underworld. With this ability, Lung Shiqi felt like he was a god. In addition to these, Fengdu City had also changed a lot. The palaces of the 5 ghost emperors and the 10 kings of hell had become a group of palaces. The biggest change was that the netherworld aura in each main palace was so dense that it was almost solid. If one cultivated here, their cultivation speed would definitely increase by leaps and bounds. Lung Shiqi also specially informed every member of the underworld that they could go to their own palaces when they cultivated in seclusion. He believed that it would not be long before the strength of the members of the underworld would increase by leaps and bounds. Thinking of the members of the underworld, Lung Shiqi remembered that he had not brought in any new members for a long time. He had a few candidates before, but his own experience was too bizarre, and he did not have time to care about these. There were still many empty spots in the underworld, so it was time to bring in a few new people. At this time, the news of Zhu Lu country defeating Beilu country had already spread. All the forces and dynasties had received this information. Instantly, the entire world was shocked. Originally, a war between 2 small countries would not be so surprising. The main point was that Zhu Lu country won too quickly. From an outsider's point of view, Zhu Lu country and Beilu country were equal in strength. Even if a war broke out, it would not be over in just a few days. Moreover, the Zhu Lu kingdom was able to break through the Pai Lu kingdom with lightning speed. This was simply unbelievable. In the main hall of the Thunderblaze dynasty's royal capital, someone reported, "Your Majesty, the Zhu Road nation and the Beilu nation are both subordinate nations of our dynasty. Isn't the Zhou Road nation looking down on our dynasty by recklessly attacking the Bailu nation? Lung Shiqi's Dharmakaya of the past was sitting on the dragon throne. He remained silent. As expected, someone else immediately said, "Lord Yin, you're wrong. In my humble opinion, this matter isn't that simple. Perhaps someone is secretly interfering." It is said that the three sky origin stage cultivators from the worship hall of the Bei Lu kingdom died in a strange way. How could the Zhu Lu kingdom have such power? They are hiding their strength. We have to find out. The ministers were all talking about investigating the Zhu Road nation. Their worries were not without reason. Lung Shiqi raised his hand, and the hall immediately quieted down. He said, "Dear ministers, let's not talk about the Zhu Road nation. This emperor would like to ask, how do you feel about the two counties of the Northern Wei dynasty?" The ministers were all confused. Why did he suddenly mention the Northern Wei dynasty? However, if there was any feeling, it would definitely be great. The Thunderblaze dynasty had finally opened up a new territory after hundreds of years. These people were qualified to be written in the annals of history. Mo Xianghua vaguely thought of something. He took a step forward and said, "Your Majesty is wise and mighty." This old minister boldly guesses that perhaps the Zhu Road nation's matter is related to our dynasty. Huh! Lung Shiqi clapped his hands and laughed. As expected, nothing can be hidden from Minister Mo, that's right. The reason why the Zhu Road nation was able to take down the Bailu nation was because this emperor gave them a lot of power. From their equipment to their military strength, even their sky origin stage cultivators were all from my Thunderblaze dynasty. The hall was immediately in an uproar. So this was the truth. However, they actually did not know. In other words, this matter was pushed by His Majesty in the dark. He did not discuss it with the ministers. Some people could not help but feel that he did not trust them. The reason why this emperor did not mention this matter was that the Northern Wei dynasty and the Falling Star dynasty could not know about it. My target is not just the Bailu nation, but also the Great Moon clan, the Jushur nation, the Golden Tribe, and the Toba nation, because this emperor feels that the Western region has 6 nations, which is too many. Not only do I want to swallow the 2 counties of the Northern Wei dynasty, I also want to turn the 6 nations of the Western region into the Thunderblaze dynasty's territory. His words were as light as a feather, but they shocked everyone in the hall like a sudden clap of thunder. If he felt that the 6 nations of the Western region were too many, then he would destroy them all. What kind of method was this? What kind of domineering was this? Many people immediately felt their blood boiling. Compared to the situation here, the Great Moon clan was sighing in despair. Originally, the Great Moon clan wanted to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight when the Zhu Road nation and Bailu nation were fighting. They even sent out their troops to fight. But they did not expect the Zhu Road nation to win so quickly. From the intelligence, the Zhu Road nation did not lose much of their troops. They had used their extraordinary power to crush the enemy. The Great Moon clan was in an awkward position. They had 30,000 troops stationed at the border of the Bailu nation. Now, they were in a dilemma. The Zhu Road nation was in the limelight, and there was a mysterious expert. They did not dare to rashly attack, but they were unwilling to go back with their tails between their legs. While they were still hesitating, the heaven and earth suddenly trembled violently. In the midst of the billowing ghostly aura, a gloomy gate that was 100 feet tall rose from the ground. Then, hundreds of ferocious nether beasts roared and rushed into the army's camp. Most of the soldiers were still resting when they were torn to pieces. What the hell is that? Demonic beasts. They're demonic beasts. Ah. Enemy attack. Hurry up and face the enemy. Hurry up and face the enemy. The camp immediately turned into a pot of porridge. When they finally managed to stabilize themselves, countless demons and ghosts rushed out from the gate. These demons and ghosts were not strong. They were not even as strong as ordinary soldiers. But there were too many of them. They were densely packed and covered the sky. Just looking at them would make one's scalp tingle and one's legs go weak. A few generals immediately had the thought of running away. They did not know where these demons and ghosts came from, nor did they know why they were attacking them. They only knew that if they did not run away, they would not have a chance. Unfortunately, they only felt a gust of cold wind sweep past them. More than 10 translucent figures surrounded them. These figures all exuded an aura that was even stronger than theirs. Chapter 907. More than a dozen ghost slaves easily took care of the generals. The remaining soldiers of the Great Moon Kingdom were in a state of disunity. They only cared about running away in panic. But the more they ran, the faster they died. In less than an hour, the 30,000-strong army was completely annihilated. Only countless rivers of blood and broken limbs were left on the battlefield. A large number of ghosts were gnawing on the corpses. Lung Shichi walked out of the void. He looked at the hellish scene expressionlessly. He only thought of how powerful the creatures of the underworld were. The 30,000-strong army was annihilated just like that. Those creatures were still very weak, but there were many of them. Moreover, these creatures had just been born and could continue to grow stronger through devouring. If the creatures of the underworld were to become stronger, they would be comparable to hundreds of thousands of soldiers. In addition to the high-level cultivators of the Nether Temple, the Zhuge family, and the Thunderblaze dynasty, the target was getting closer and closer. None of the 30,000-strong army managed to escape, which meant that the news did not spread. At the same time, because the 30,000-strong army was annihilated, the Green Thunder Army could march straight in. Soon, the 20,000-strong Green Thunder Army arrived. They could see the howling of ghosts and howling of wolves from afar. But when they saw the scene, they did not feel good. Many of them even turned pale and vomited nonstop. It was not that they had not been on the battlefield, nor that they had not seen the cruelty of war. On the contrary, they were all seasoned warriors and had seen the bloodshed of the battlefield. But the scene in front of them could no longer be described as a battlefield. It was clearly hell on earth. Countless dismembered corpses were piled up like a small hill. The terrifying thing was that the corpses were covered with teeth marks, as if they had been swallowed alive by something. Lung Shichi ordered, "Now that the Great Moon Kingdom is completely defenseless, there is no defensive force in each city except for the city guards. You will split into 2 groups and attack the cities from the north and south. Finally, you will gather at Hang City." Hang City was the most prosperous city in the east of the Great Moon Kingdom, second only to their capital. They had to take down this city before the Great Moon Kingdom could react. In just 2 days, the Green Thunder Army of the Thunderblaze dynasty invaded more than a dozen cities of the Great Moon Kingdom and took down Hang City in one fell swoop. All of a sudden, the sky of the Great Moon clan collapsed. King Yuejin was dumbfounded. He had his subordinates report this to him several times before he could believe that this had happened. It was as if he had lost half of his territory while he was taking a nap. Eugene was still a little confused. When he wanted to fight back, he realized that the Green Thunder Army had left some guards in every city. Hang City also had 10,000 Green Thunder Army soldiers. The Great Moon Kingdom had 80,000 soldiers, twice as many as the Sanlu Kingdom. Their strength was far superior, but they had to face the Thunderblaze dynasty's Green Thunder Army. That was the most elite army of the Thunderblaze dynasty. If they were to defend the city, they would need at least 30 to 40,000 people to be able to take it down. The key point was not how many soldiers the Great Moon Clan needed to fight, but that they did not dare to fight. Their opponent was the Thunderous Blaze dynasty, one of the 3 dynasties in the world. The Thunderous Blaze dynasty had a military force 100 times that of the Great Moon Kingdom. What was more, the Thunderous Blaze dynasty had countless experts. How could they fight against them? Among the 6 kingdoms of the Western region, the Great Moon Clan and the Jushur Kingdom relied on their strength. They were also far from the Thunderblaze dynasty and the Starfall dynasty, so they did not attach themselves to any of the dynasties. The Great Moon Clan had no way to deal with the Thunderblaze dynasty. Their only chance to survive was to surrender. Helplessness, fear, and despair shrouded the entire Great Moon Clan. It even affected the Che-Chi Kingdom, the Golden Tribe Kingdom, and the Tuoba Kingdom. The Sanlu Kingdom was also one of the 6 kingdoms of the Western region. The Great Moon clan was suddenly forced to the edge of cliff. No eggs could remain intact when the nest was overturned. The Thunderblaze dynasty had begun to invade the 6 kingdoms of the Western region. Could the 3 kingdoms really protect themselves? The Jushur Kingdom and the Golden Tribe Kingdom acted quickly. They immediately sent people to the Starfall dynasty to seek protection and were willing to become their vassals. The Tuoba Kingdom was in an awkward position. When the Starfall dynasty went to the Thunderblaze dynasty to attend Lei Chengjuan's birthday banquet, they temporarily stayed in the Tuoba Kingdom. Some unpleasant things happened there, causing the Tuoba Kingdom and the Starfall dynasty to fall out. As the most powerful dynasty on the continent, the Starfall dynasty did not send troops to attack the Tuoba Kingdom due to their status. However, they cut off all trade with the Tuoba Kingdom and ordered the Golden Tribe Kingdom to do the same. They wanted the Tuoba Kingdom to fend for itself. They believed that in less than 2 years, the Tuoba Kingdom would kneel and beg for mercy. In the past few years, the Tuoba Kingdom's situation had been deteriorating. It was difficult for them to be self-sufficient. The current situation was unstable. The Jushur Kingdom and the Golden Tribe Kingdom could not even protect themselves. The Starfall dynasty could not wait for the Tuoba Kingdom to be destroyed. In this case, the Tuoba king, Tuoba Chi, made up his mind. On the surface, he asked the diplomatic group to seek help from the Starfall dynasty. However, he secretly sent people to the Thunderblaze dynasty. The continuous turmoil of the 6 kingdoms in the Western region naturally attracted the attention of everyone in the world. All the forces were sighing. The Starfall continent was becoming more and more unstable. If the war between the Zhu Lu Kingdom and the Beilu Kingdom was a matter of 2 small kingdoms, then the Azure Thunder Army's dispatch represented the Thunderblaze dynasty's intention to attack the 6 kingdoms in the Western region. Zhu Lu Kingdom's swift defeat of the Beilu Kingdom meant that the Thunderblaze dynasty was behind this. The Thunderblaze dynasty had just seized 2 counties from the Northern Wei dynasty. Now, they were plotting against the 6 kingdoms in the Western region. They were indeed ambitious. Lung Shiqi appeared openly in Hang City. The arrival of the Thunderblaze dynasty's king of the Western Wasteland finally made the people of the Great Moon Kingdom lose their last glimmer of hope. They were not afraid of Lung Shiqi's power. In their opinion, Lung Shiqi had just broken through to the Heavenly Origin Realm. After all, the Great Moon Kingdom had several Heavenly Origin Realm experts. What they were afraid of was that Lung Shiqi was the most favored minister of the Thunderblaze dynasty's king, Lei Haoyan. Since he was here, he represented the king of the Thunderblaze dynasty. There were different opinions in the Great Moon Kingdom. Most of them wanted to surrender. Although the Great Moon Kingdom would cease to exist, these high-ranking officials still enjoyed power and wealth. A small number of them did not want to fight to the end. Instead, they wanted to escape with the strongest forces. The Great Moon Kingdom's Hall of Worship had 7 Heavenly Origin Realm experts. It was easy for them to join the Starfall dynasty or set up another faction. Why would they want to be slaves of a fallen kingdom? However, Lung Shiqi took a stroll in the Great Moon Kingdom as the king of Samsara. The next day, the king of Yuejin Kingdom brought people to surrender. Surprisingly, it was not the Thunderblaze dynasty that took over the Great Moon Kingdom, but Queen Carol of the Zhu Lu Kingdom. After annexing the Beilu Kingdom and the Great Moon Kingdom, the Zhu Lu Kingdom changed its name to the West Continent Kingdom. Chapter 908. The name of Shizhou indicated that they would not give up on the remaining 3 small countries. However, Zhu Lu Country's foundation was too shallow. Swallowing Beilu Country and Great Moon Country was their limit, and they would not be able to expand again in a short time. Lung Shiqi did not let the Thunderfire dynasty directly take these territories for themselves. No matter how chaotic the 6 countries of the Western region were fighting, it was their internal affairs. This time, it could only be said that the Thunderfire dynasty intervened, but they did not really attack the 6 countries of the Western region. Although the world knew that Shizhou country belonged to the Thunderfire dynasty, as long as it was not exposed, no one could condemn it. After all, gossip was a fearful thing, and it was best not to leave any evidence. Lung Shiqi was not in a hurry to return to the Western Wilderness imperial residence, but continued to guard Shizhou country. Although Great Moon country had surrendered, the Seven Sky Origin Realm Masters were still a strong force, and he still had to guard against them. The matter of the 6 countries of the Western region was almost done. Next, he would wait for the blood-robed pavilion to rise. During this half a year, he planned to guard Shizhou country and help Carol through this most difficult period. Of course, Lung Shiqi could not stay idle. He entered the mansion of the dead and sat cross-legged. After receiving the memory of the Lord of Samsara, he had obtained a large number of ancient cultivation methods. Those cultivation methods were not very meaningful to him now, but some of them were still very useful, and that was the body-refining cultivation method. Lung Shiqi was well aware of the importance of physical strength. Previously, when his body was destroyed, he had cultivated many body-tempering techniques. His current body contained great strength, but unfortunately, it had not been fully developed. He first chose a cultivation method called 7 Deaths Extreme Body, which was neither high nor low. It was a level 7 cultivation method, and he could try it out first. Lung Shiqi comprehended this cultivation technique in a single breath. His entire body suddenly emitted strands of red light. From his skin, tendons, bones, and spirit meridians, he felt as if they were being burned. Ordinary people would not be able to endure this pain, but it was nothing to Lung Shiqi. In just a moment, the red light on his body began to weaken and gradually turned orange. Lung Shiqi's muscles tightened as if he had broken through some kind of shackle. He opened his eyes slightly and revealed a bit of surprise. The 7 Deaths Ultimate Body is an ancient 7th-level body-refining technique. It is very difficult to cultivate. I didn't expect that I could cultivate it to the 2nd level so easily. This body of mine indeed has great potential. He continued to cultivate, and the light emitted from his body kept changing. In just a few hours, he had cultivated the 7 Deaths Extreme Body to the great completion. At this moment, he was bathed in the majestic purple light. Finally, the purple light abruptly condensed and turned into incantations that were imprinted on his body. Lung Shiqi gently clenched his fist. He didn't use any spirit energy or the power of laws, but he punched the ground, leaving behind a 1,000-foot-wide crater. His eyes were filled with joy. Just the strength of my body is comparable to the unity of heaven and man. It has already caught up with my original body. The 7 Deaths Extreme Body was a set of body-refining techniques from the outside to the inside. It could also explode with great physical strength. It was a good foundation to use this technique. Then Lung Shiqi picked another body-refining technique that was suitable for combat. It was the ancient 8th-level technique, Gray Wolf Transformation. Half a day later, the shadow of a gray wolf dozens of feet long stood behind Lung Shiqi. The gray wolf howled at the moon and looked down on the world. Suddenly, bolts of lightning burst out, causing the nether chi in the area to become violent. Lung Shiqi punched again. It was as powerful as a divine beast, and it was powerful enough to change the color of heaven and earth. The gray wolf transformation had reached the great completion. The gray wolf transformation is indeed more powerful than the 7 Deaths Extreme Body. If I only use my physical strength, I could defeat most masters in the early stage of the Sky Origin Realm. After tasting the sweetness, Lung Shiqi could not stop. Dragon Emperor Technique, Golden Rock Body of 9 Heaven, Phoenix Nirvana Body, Mysterious Glazed Ice Technique. In half a year, Lung Shiqi practiced more than 10 body-refining techniques. The techniques that he learned later were most likely 9th-level body-refining techniques. Most of them were related to the Demon Clan. After all, the Samsara Master was once the Demon Emperor of the Demon Clan. The Demon Clan's physical strength was undoubtedly the strongest. The Samsara master used this point to create a large number of body-refining techniques that were suitable for the demon clan. Therefore, his position in the demon clan was higher than the heavens. Lung Shichi's body had endless potential. With his cultivation speed, he finished all the techniques in the 3rd month. After that, he used the rest of the time to integrate the techniques. Because these techniques were more suitable for ancient spirit cultivators or demon beasts, only the techniques that he created himself were most suitable for him. Unfortunately, until now, he had not been able to perfect his own body-refining technique. It could only be considered a half-finished product. Lung Shichi did not continue. Wu Xiang contacted him through the underworld. Wu Xiang used the netherworld lamp to know that Lung Shichi was in the underworld. Then, he came to the underworld in the form of Wu Yin, Ghost Emperor. However, when he saw Lung Shichi for the first time, he was shocked. At this moment, Lung Shichi gave Wu Xiang the feeling of an ancient beast. Wild, ferocious, ominous, cruel. Lung Shichi restrained his aura and said, "Master, the sect is about to make a move." Wu Xiang secretly took a breath of cold air. He had an illusion that Lung Shichi could kill him with one punch. He buried this terrifying thought in the bottom of his heart. He knew that his disciple was not simple. Yes, all parties are ready. If you have no problems, the sect will act in 3 days. Lung Shichi raised his head slightly. This day has finally come. Yes, this day has finally come. I don't know if the sect will be able to survive this. Wu Xiang sighed softly. Even now, he did not have much confidence in his heart. They would have to become enemies with the entire Thunderfire dynasty. Not to mention the Blood Row Pavilion. Even the 6th Direction spiritual region would not be able to withstand it. Lung Shichi smiled. "Master, don't worry. The Blood Row Pavilion will definitely win this time. It might even be easier than expected." "Oh, you're so confident?" Luan Zhuanwang Zhuan has deduced that the Blood Row Pavilion is on the rise and no one can stop them. King Yinluo's background is not small and his influence is not weaker than mine. He will also be of great help. Ha ha ha. Then I will borrow Luan Zhuanwang's auspicious words and King Yinluo's help. The Blood Row Pavilion will remember this. Since you have no problems, I will go back and report to the Pavilion Master. After Wu Xiang left, Lung Shichi also left the Mansion of the Dead. Over the past half a year, Queen Carol had finally taken complete control of the situation in the West Province. He, on the other hand, had made a special trip to the imperial capital. If he wanted the Blood Garment Pavilion to safely survive this crisis without exposing his strength, he would have to ask for Lei Haoyan's help. Chapter 909. Recently, the Blood Row Pavilion in Yukon County had been acting strange. As one of the 7 absolutes in the world, they had gradually abandoned their branches in the various counties and gathered in the main pavilion in Yukon County. Among the major forces in the Thunderfire dynasty, only the Blood Row Pavilion had established branches everywhere. After all, the Blood Row Pavilion was rather special, and everyone was used to it. When many of the assassins in the branches left, some things that could not be exposed became difficult to handle. However, the distance between the counties was very far, and those sects did not notice that all the branches were leaving. In addition, the Blood Row Pavilion also began to not accept assassination missions. At first, they could find some decent reasons, but later they simply closed their doors and did not come out. This aroused the suspicion of many sects, who did not know what the Blood Row Pavilion was planning. Fortunately, the war between the 6 countries of the Western region happened to break out during this period of time, attracting everyone's attention, so they ignored the Blood Row Pavilion. Today was an ordinary day, but not an ordinary one. The Blood Row Pavilion announced to the world that from today onwards, the Blood Row Pavilion would no longer be restricted by any forces, and their disciples could move freely to compete for the resources of heaven and earth. In the future, the Blood Row Pavilion would not easily accept assassination missions. If they wanted to kill someone, the employer had to truthfully provide the target's information in advance, and the Blood Row Pavilion would decide the reward based on the information. If the employer's information was wrong, causing the mission to fail, the employer would directly become the Blood Robe Pavilion's assassination target. After these two pieces of news were released, it caused a huge uproar in the Thunderfire dynasty. Although the Blood Robe Pavilion was one of the 7 absolutes in the world, in fact, in the hearts of the cultivators in the world, it was the Blood Robe Pavilion that they looked down on and hated the most. It could be said that more than 90% of the sect disciples in the Thunderfire dynasty have been assassinated by the Blood Robe Pavilion. However, due to the uniqueness of the Blood Robe Pavilion, everyone needed such a dirty sword, so they did not directly attack them. This unspoken rule had been going on for many years, so long that everyone had already gotten used to it. But today, the Blood Robe Pavilion actually jumped out and said that they would no longer follow this rule. They even came up with a new set of rules, which instantly ignited the anger of all the sects. Since you are not willing to continue being this sword, then we will settle the old and new grudges together. Without a leader or an alliance, dozens of sects quickly declared war on the Blood Robe Pavilion at the same time. Most of these sects were second-rate or even third-rate forces. Compared to the Blood Robe Pavilion, they were nothing. However, they were full of confidence because there would be more or less sects declaring war every day. Gradually, first-rate sects also joined in. Especially after the Huangfu clan of the 10 Fang clans declared war, it instantly raised the morale of the people. More and more forces began to gather in Mukin County. It was as if all the sects in the world had joined forces to besiege the Blood Robe Pavilion. In the main hall of the Supreme Saber Hall, Hall Master Fu Yingxi was sitting there with a golden saber. Yushu was standing beside him and whispering something. Not long after, Fu Yingxi said, "I understand what all of you mean. The Blood Garment Pavilion has incurred the wrath of the world. Many factions are against the Blood Garment Pavilion. My Extreme Saber Hall is too far from Mukin County, so I won't get involved in this mess." Immediately, some people disagreed. However, Fu Yingxi didn't give them a chance. Do you really think that the people of the Blood Robe Pavilion are fools? Since you dare to go against the world, you naturally have something to rely on. If you want to fight for fame, be careful not to lose your little lives. I made up my mind. No more discussion. Purgatory Devil Clan, Tianshan County. Purgatory Demon, the sect master, was also worried about the elders and disciples. You all know about the Blood Robe Pavilion. Our holy sect has never been favored by those so-called righteous sections. Today's Blood Robe Pavilion may be the future holy sect. Mukin County, there's no need to go. Five Flags Alliance, Fushin County. The Alliance Master was selecting people to go to Mukin County when someone suddenly reported that the Dark Thunder Guards and the Discipline Commission had come to visit him. The people of Five Flags Alliance were confused. Why would these two sects come together? Could it be that one of their disciples had committed a crime? As a top sect, Five Flags Alliance didn't dare to neglect these two imperial dogs. The Alliance Master welcomed them in person. Later, the three of them discussed something in a secret room. When they came out, the Alliance Master announced that he would give up on dealing with the Blood Garment Pavilion. Mountain Sea Sect, Donglin County. This was a top sect. After the Blood Garment Pavilion started to cause trouble, they started to gather masters to prepare for a crusade against the Blood Garment Pavilion. However, a mysterious person came to visit them today. Soon, the Mountain Sea Sect decided to seal themselves off for a year. They didn't care about anything in the outside world. Such things were happening everywhere in the Thunderfire dynasty. Some top sects and third-rate sects couldn't go to Mukin County to deal with the Blood Garment Pavilion for various reasons. 2 months later, there were only 3 top-notch forces that had arrived at Mukin County. They were the Huangfu family, the Evil Heartsword sect, and Qi Molu. Qi Molu was a sect that rose after Lei Qingjun destroyed the mechanical city. He mainly cultivated wood elemental techniques and was quite strong. There were also dozens of first-rate sects, and the rest were second-rate and third-rate sections. They waited for a few days in Mukin County, but the other sects didn't come. After asking around, they found out that they were the only ones who came to deal with the Blood Garment Pavilion. Boom! The Huangfu family's master, Huangfu Yuanjie smashed the table in front of him and roared, "Cowards, a bunch of cowards!" The gloomy old man next to him laughed strangely. "Why are you so angry, Huangfu family's master? It's a good thing that no one came to take the credit for such a famous matter." "A good thing?" The green-robed man on the other side questioned. "Does the evil heart sword master think that we can take down the Blood Garment Pavilion with just the three of us?" The evil heart sword master called him by his name. "Chi Mu, we have 10 Heaven Origin Realm experts and more than 100 Unity of Heaven experts. We could just attack directly. What are you afraid of?" Chi Mu frowned. "The Blood Garment Pavilion has recalled all their disciples. The number of experts among them isn't much less than ours. If they dare to go against the world, they must be prepared. If we force our way in, we will only fall into their trap. Don't forget that the Blood Garment Pavilion's disciples are best at assassination. Even if we take down the Blood Garment Pavilion, we will suffer heavy losses. Perhaps some of you here will die. Whether or not my words are just an alarmist, everyone should be very clear in their hearts. In my opinion, we should wait a little longer. Even if another top sect comes, our chances of winning will be much higher." Huang Fuyunjin nodded and said, "Master Chi Mu is right. Let's wait a little longer." However, they waited for more than half a month, but no top sects came. Only a few first-rate and second-rate sects came. Unfortunately, they couldn't play a critical role. Chapter 9-10. The longer the three top forces waited in Mukon County, the more embarrassed they would be. They were here to attack the Blood Robe Pavilion, but they did not dare to make a move in their own territory. This meant that they were afraid. Moreover, there were rumors that they had disrupted the order of Mukon County, causing the people to suffer. Occasionally, disciples of the Blood Robe Pavilion would even come to assassinate them. The Blood Robe Pavilion specifically picked on those second- and third-rate sects, causing the low-level disciples of the entire Subjugation Alliance to panic. Seeing that the alliance was becoming more and more loose, Evil Heart Swordmaster could no longer hold it in. He persuaded Huangfu, Yuanjie, and Chi Mu to attack the Blood Robe Pavilion today. The next day, the three top sects led tens of thousands of experts to the Blood Robe Pavilion. In the Blood Robe Pavilion, the higher-ups were also a little confused. They had expected that once they started the attack, the number of people who would come to besiege them would be at least several times more than now. When the three sects arrived in Mukon County, all of their movements were under the surveillance of the Blood Robe Pavilion. At first, the Blood Robe Pavilion thought that the other party was deliberately deceiving them and hiding more experts. However, after such a long time, the Blood Robe Pavilion did not find any clues even after investigating those people. In other words, only these people came to attack them this time. Did they overestimate the influence of the Blood Robe Pavilion, or did they overestimate the backbone of the sects in the world? Of course, all of this was the best for the Blood Robe Pavilion. If it was just dealing with the enemies in front of them, they were absolutely confident. The fact that not many sects came to Mukon County seemed a little strange, but in fact, it was the result of the Blood Robe Pavilion's 100 years of planning. The forces in the eastern and western provinces of the Thunderfire Dynasty were stopped by the Lung Shichi. The forces in the north and south were invaded by the Blood Robe Pavilion for many years, such as the Supreme Saber Hall and the Purgatory Demon Sect where Yushu and Xiaoming were. There were also a few top forces that were allies of the Blood Robe Pavilion, the Liuha spiritual region. It could be said that the Blood Robe Pavilion had affected the entire Thunderfire Dynasty's forces this time. It could be seen that the Blood Seed plan was indeed very useful. Of course, the Lung Shichi had risen too quickly. Otherwise, the Blood Seed plan would have to continue for hundreds of years to reach its current situation. The location of the Blood Robe Pavilion sect was rather secretive, and there was also a formation concealing it. Ordinary spirit cultivators would not be able to discover it. However, the three sects had come prepared. They had bought information from the Wind Whispering Tower at high price. With the help of several Sky Origin Stage cultivators, they had broken the formation and exposed the Blood Garment Pavilion. Sword Master Xie Xian pointed his long sword at Yi Fuqian in high spirits. However, when he saw the many experts of the Blood Robe Pavilion, his expression stiffened. At this moment, there were thousands of assassins in blood-red clothes and masks standing in front of him. They were filled with murderous intent. Behind them, there were tens of thousands of black-clothed assassins with cold expressions. In terms of low and middle-level spirit cultivator, the Blood Robe Pavilion was actually not much less than the Alliance. Moreover, the disciples of the Blood Cloak Pavilion had experienced countless life-and-death battles. Their combat prowess was naturally far superior to those of ordinary sections. What shocked Sword Master Xie and the others the most were the 8 figures standing in the air. The Pavilion Master of the Blood Robe Pavilion, Hateful Blade. Vice Pavilion Master, Black Frost Ghost. The Disciplinary Elder, Bone Demon. The hidden experts of the previous generation were Elder Gu and Elder Mu. Beside Elder Mu was a golden puppet that was dozens of feet tall. It was also floating in the air. It was the supreme puppet that he had spent his entire life to create, Big Gold. Other than these people, Wu Xiang and Hua Luiwei stood at the sides. They were both newly advanced Sky Origin Stage cultivators. These 8 Sky Origin Stage cultivators shocked everyone. Outsiders only knew that the Blood Robe Pavilion had 3 Sky Origin Stage cultivators. Even if there were 1 or 2 hidden old fellows, it was still within the acceptable range. But now, good heavens, 8 of them. Their so-called alliance only had 10 Sky Origin Stage cultivators. It looked like there were 2 more, but in a battle between Sky Origin Stage cultivators, unless there was a huge disparity in strength, it would be very difficult to kill each other. Sword Master Xie compared the strength of both sides. He realized that his side was indeed stronger, but at most, they were stronger by 30%. With this strength, it was almost impossible to destroy the Blood Robe Pavilion. The high spirits from before had completely disappeared. If they could not destroy the Blood Robe Pavilion, they would become the laughingstock of the world. However, if they fought forcefully, as Chi Mu said, they would only suffer heavy losses and might not be able to take down the Blood Robe Pavilion. Their current situation could only be described as being in a dilemma. At that moment, 2 more people appeared in the void. They were recognized as soon as they appeared. Chi Mu said in surprise, "It's Elder Shao and Elder Lin from the 6 Directions Spiritual Region. The 4 Directions Spiritual Region is here." "That's great." Sword Master Xie was delighted. However, Elder Shao said, "Everyone, the Blood Robe Pavilion has some ties with the 6 Directions Spiritual Region. For the sake of the 6 Directions Spiritual Region, you should retreat." "What?" The 3 top sects, including everyone else, were stunned. The 6 Directions Spiritual Region was on the Blood Robe Pavilion side. In their impression, the 6 Directions Spiritual Region was the most orthodox force. How could they collude with the Blood Robe Pavilion? For a moment, everyone thought that they had heard wrongly. Elder Shao originally did not want to appear. It was enough for the 6 Directions Spiritual Region to secretly help the Blood Robe Pavilion. However, when he told the situation here to 6 Directions Spiritual Sovereign, 6 Directions Spiritual Sovereign asked him to appear and force the 3 sects to retreat. Even though Sword Master Xie and the others did not know the 6 Directions Spiritual Region's intentions, after Elder Shao and Elder Lin joined, the 2-side Sky Origin Realm combat power was equal. There was no hope of destroying the Blood Robe Pavilion. Moreover, the 6 Directions Spiritual Region was a transcendent force. Who would dare to attack them? It seemed that the only path left for them was to retreat with their heads covered in dirt. Sword Master Xie was unwilling to accept this. He could not understand why there were not many sects that came to attack the Blood Robe Pavilion, which was hated by everyone. Why would the 6 Directions Spiritual Region support the Blood Robe Pavilion? Seeing that Huangfu Yunjie and the others did not respond, Elder Shao frowned slightly. "Why? Do you want to experience the 6 Directions Spiritual Region's divine art?" Chi Mu immediately smiled. "Elder Shao, you must be joking. The 6 Directions Spiritual Region is where we aspire to be. We will retreat." Then, he pulled the helpless Sword Master Xie and Huangfu Yunjie and quickly retreated. The tens of thousands of sect disciples also retreated like the tide. The siege of the Blood Robe Pavilion ended so abruptly, with a strong start and a weak finish. One could imagine that in the near future, the three top forces of the Huangfu family would be swept away and would no longer have the face to see others. The Blood Robe Pavilion was also a little confused. Every one of them came to this battle with the awareness that they would die. However, it was over before the battle even started. They had planned for 100 years and staked everything on a single throw, but it was completed as easily as eating and drinking. It was too unreal. However, Pavilion Master Hendao and the others looked at Elder Shao at the same time. Chapter 911. According to the agreement between the Blood Robe Pavilion and the Six Directions Spiritual Zone, the Six Directions Spiritual Zone did not need to show up. It was Elder Shao and Elder Lin who used their divine origin realm power and the Six Directions Spiritual Zone's might to force Swordmaster Evil Heart and the others to retreat. However, this exposed the Six Directions Spiritual Zone. Hatred Blade did not understand how this would benefit the Six Directions Spiritual Zone. He needed an explanation. Elder Shao felt his scalp go numb from Hatred Blade's stare. He knew that he was no match for Hatred Blade, but he also did not know why Six Directions Spiritual Sovereign wanted him to do this. Therefore, he could only laugh dryly and say, "Pavilion Master Hatred Blade, I was only following orders. Now that the Blood Robe Pavilion has easily survived this crisis and is publicly established in the world, congratulations." Hatred Blade firmly believed that there was no such thing as a free lunch in the world. He asked, "Where is Six Directions Spiritual Sovereign? I want to see him." Elder Shao stuttered. Suddenly, divine light bloomed in midair. Circles of dazzling light circled and condensed into something like a passageway. Then, a dignified and arrogant voice sounded. "I'm here." Six Directions Spiritual Sovereign had crossed thousands of miles and personally arrived at the Blood Robe Pavilion. He was surrounded by the power of laws, and his aura soared into the sky aggressively. Hatred Blade instantly felt as if he was facing a great enemy. He actually sensed a trace of killing intent from Six Directions Spiritual Sovereign. "Hatred Blade, I underestimated you and the Blood Robe Pavilion. I didn't expect the Blood Robe Pavilion to have such a great influence in the dark that you can actually stop more than half of the top sects in the world. This is good as well. It saved me a lot of effort." Black Frost, Ghostly Man, could see that Six Directions Spiritual Sovereign had come with ill intentions. "Six Directions Spiritual Sovereign, we have already agreed that if you help us survive this crisis, we will help you deal with the people you want to deal with. What are you trying to do now?" Six Directions Spiritual Sovereign said coldly, How can the Four Directions Spiritual Zone ally with a dirty force like the Blood Robe Pavilion? Today, I will represent the righteous path in the world and destroy the Blood Robe Pavilion." He waved his hand, and the world shook. Boundless divine power surged as if he was the god of this world. "Unless you all are willing to submit to this exalted, only death awaits you." Black Frost, Ghostly Man bellowed furiously. "What an evil dog-eat dog. You forced the three sects to retreat because you want to monopolize my Blood Garment Pavilion." It turned out that the Lioha spiritual region had such a good plan. Not only could they shut the mouths of everyone in the world, they could also take over the Blood Robe Pavilion. If the Six Directions spiritual region could possess a sword like the Blood Cloak Pavilion, many things that were difficult to do in the past could be easily done, especially those shameful things. Hendao looked straight at Six Directions spiritual supremacy. There was only a cold glint in his eyes as he slowly said, "On what basis? Why? Ha 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 ha." Six Directions Spiritual Senior laughed loudly. "I alone can wipe out your entire Blood Robe Pavilion." Then, the hateful blade suddenly slashed out. This saber strike did not have a shocking saber ray, but it passed through space like a ghost and instantly slashed in front of Six Directions Spiritual Supremacy. The corner of Six Directions' spiritual supremacy's mouth curled up into a cold smile. He was secretly mocking the saber for overestimating itself. However, in the next moment, his eyes suddenly lost focus for a moment. Although it was only for a short moment, the saber light had broken through his protective divine light. Bang! Then, the strange thing was that Six Directions' spiritual supremacy was unscathed. However, the hateful blade's body was violently sent flying by an invisible force. Blood scattered with the wind. Hateful blade was on the verge of death. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Pavilion Master, Inkfrost ghostly being dodged and caught the hateful blade. The others looked at Six Directions' spiritual supremacy with murderous intent. Six Directions' spiritual supremacy's expression was very ugly. He had actually been ambushed by a mere heavenly origin realm cultivator. He said coldly, "You have some ability. If you were given a few more decades, you might have a chance to continue breaking through. Unfortunately, you must die today." The members of the Blood Robe Pavilion would never have thought that the people who came to attack them would retreat on their own accord. However, their ally had become their greatest enemy. The mystic comprehending realm, Six Directions' spiritual supremacy was unstoppable. Even the strongest hateful blade had been crippled in one move. What did they have to fight against Six Directions' spiritual supremacy? Six Directions' spiritual supremacy alone was more terrifying than several top sects. "I will give you one last chance. Submit or die." As soon as he finished speaking, Endless Extreme, Een Sword, Chi suddenly exploded in the sky. The terrifying evil Een energy darkened the sky and earth, stirring up the power of law as it attacked Six Directions' spiritual supremacy. Only a mystic comprehending realm cultivator could stir up the power of law. No one had expected a mystic comprehending realm cultivator to ambush Six Directions' spiritual supremacy at this time. Six Directions' spiritual supremacy was shocked at first. Then, his expression became calm. It was only when the sword intent was about to reach him that he uttered a strange syllable. No one knew what it meant. At this moment, supreme heavens appeared around Six Directions' spiritual supremacy, and there was a god in each of the heavens. Those gods formed seals with their hands and suppressed the heavens and earth with their bodies. No matter how powerful the extreme Een Sword Chi was, it was all destroyed by this suppressive force and turned into nothingness. The members of the Blood Robe Pavilion retreated continuously with ashen expressions. This was the true strength of a Six Directions' spiritual supremacy. It turned out that defeating Hateful Blade was just a casual move. A vertical eye appeared on Six Directions' spiritual supremacy's forehead and scanned the surroundings. However, he did not seem to discover anything. He frowned and said, "There are not many people in this world who can master this sword intent that is closest to death. Which old friend of mine is it? Show yourself." However, what answered him was another saber gleam. In an instant, 3 saber gleams flashed for thousands of miles. The saber transformed into the 3 realms: the immortal realm, the devil realm, and the Buddha realm. Gods, ghosts, and Buddhas. These 3 completely different powers merged into one. The most powerful saber slashed the heavens and decimated the earth. The numerous heavens formed by Six Directions' spiritual supremacy shattered one after another. His expression did not change as he took a step forward. Thousands of rays of divine light bloomed behind him. In an instant, divine dragons shook the heavens and soared for thousands of miles. In the blink of an eye, he passed through the saber of the 3 realms. When his palm landed, the might of the dragon realm blasted into nothingness. After a deafening boom, a mysterious person who was shrouded in black chi appeared. "You are finally willing to show yourself. Who are you?" Six Directions' spiritual supremacy stared at this person, and the figures of mystic comprehending realm cultivators flashed across his mind. However, none of them matched the person in front of him. From the previous 2 exchanges, this mysterious expert was not weaker than him. The members of the Blood Robe Pavilion were also very surprised. This mysterious expert was obviously here to deal with Six Directions' spiritual supremacy. They were not sure if this person was helping the Blood Robe Pavilion, but from the looks of it, the situation was extremely advantageous for the Blood Robe Pavilion. Among the crowd, only Wu Xiang was deep in thought. He had actually seen Lung Shiqi's shadow in the previous saber strike. However, he did not dare to believe that his disciple was in the mystic comprehending realm. How old was Lung Shiqi? He was only in his 20s. Being able to break through to the spiritual pulse realm at such a young age was already shocking enough. How could he be in the mystic comprehending realm? He must be crazy. However, when Wu Xiang thought of Lung Shiqi's confidence in the underworld, he was slightly shaken. This disciple of his was too mysterious. No one could tell what would happen to him. Chapter 9:12. This mysterious person was naturally Lung Shiqi. He had been secretly observing the situation in the Blood Garment Pavilion. For some reason, Six Directions' spiritual sovereign had changed his mind and wanted to enter the Blood Garment Pavilion personally. The Blood Garment Pavilion was already Lung Shiqi's, so how could he give it to Six Directions' spiritual sovereign? Thus, he made his move. Lung Shiqi could not use his identity as the master of Samsara, or else he would be associated with the Thunderfire dynasty. He could only give up on using the law of Samsara and use Six Directions' spiritual sovereign to test his strength. Six Directions' spiritual sovereign did not have the confidence to defeat Lung Shiqi, so he could only test him first. Who are you? Why are you making an enemy out of me? Lung Shiqi cupped his hands and said, Six Directions' spiritual sovereign's name is known all over the world. A nobody like me is not worth mentioning. I have no intention of making an enemy out of you, but I owe the Blood Garment Pavilion a favor. Please forgive me for offending you this time. His words sounded polite, but his tone was unyielding. This made Six Directions' spiritual sovereign, who had always been high and mighty, unhappy. If that's the case, then let's see if you really have the ability to protect the Blood Garment Pavilion. Six Directions' spiritual sovereign waved his hand, and the heavenly illusions gathered again. However, this time, the heavenly illusions finally condensed into 6 gigantic divine statues that were hundreds of meters tall. Each divine statue had a terrifying energy aura that could even interfere with the laws of heaven and earth. This was one of the most powerful inheritances in the Six Directions spiritual zone, the Six Directions divine statue. The higher-ups of the Blood Garment Pavilion also recognized it, and they could not help but exclaim, "That's the Six Directions divine statue." Legend has it that Six Directions' holy sovereign once killed a divine spirit expert from the Star Tribe with it. He's serious now. Retreat quickly and activate the sect protection formation. Lung Shiqi also felt the immense pressure. Suddenly, the image of a dragon flying and a phoenix dancing appeared around him. The dragon soared to the 9 heavens, and the phoenix soared to the universe. Waves of violent energy surged through his entire body. Not only that, but illusions of wolves, golden rocks, black tortoises, divine deer, and so on appeared in the sky as if thousands of beasts had gathered. Immediately after, the illusions of divine beasts that filled the sky instantly returned to Lung Shiqi's body. At this moment, his body was shrouded in various colors of light. They were ancient, mottled, mysterious, and contained boundless power. His eyes flickered, and in that instant, heaven and earth trembled. Even though he was a Six Directions spiritual supremacy, he still felt like he was facing thousands of primordial demonic beasts. Seeing this scene, Wu Xiang was finally certain that the person who was fighting with Six Directions spiritual supremacy was Lung Shiqi. Even though he had already guessed it, he was still shocked when he confirmed it. That young man who had slaughtered his way out of Blood Mist Island a few years ago had actually become an existence that he had to look up to. The Six Directions spirit venerable seals changed, and the 6 god statues landed palm after palm, punch after punch. The power that soared into the sky seemed to be endless. The space within a radius of 10,000 miles was trembling, and there were faint signs of it collapsing. Lung Shiqi, on the other hand, simply threw a punch without using any spiritual techniques or the power of laws. However, in the next instant, it was as if this punch was the only thing in this world. The force of the punch tore through the air and directly shattered one of the divine statues of the Six Directions' spiritual supremacy. Six Directions' spiritual sovereign raised his eyebrows. He was most aware of how powerful the Six Directions' divine statues were. Although these divine statues were not real, they were tougher than anything in the world. However, at this moment, one of them had been shattered by a single punch. He could not help but be shocked. What a powerful physical strength! Lung Shiqi had used brute force to break through the technique, and he had used the strength of his physical body to gain the upper hand. However, a few cracks had appeared on his fist. He could already confirm that his physical strength was comparable to that of a mystic comprehending realm cultivator. Since he had already tested it, he could not be too restrained. A golden-winged rock appeared behind him, and with a swipe of its claws, it tore apart the heavens and earth. What was even more terrifying was that this swipe was extremely fast. It was so fast that even the Six Directions' spiritual sovereign could not capture Lung Shiqi's figure with his vertical pupil. Caught off guard, another god statue was shattered into pieces. The Six Directions' divine statues complemented each other. After losing 2 god statues in a row, the remaining 4 were greatly weakened, and Six Directions' spiritual sovereign could only retreat temporarily. This was the first time he had chosen to retreat. However, Lung Shiqi was not going to let him off after gaining the upper hand. He used his Fire Phoenix Dharma power, and his entire body turned into boundless flames that sealed the space, turning the area within a radius of a few thousand miles into a purgatory. You've gone too far. Six Directions' spiritual sovereign was completely enraged. He pointed a finger, and a divine light that covered the sky quickly repelled all the flames. He chanted a mystical syllable, and the divine light in the sky condensed into a giant mouth that reached the heavens. The giant mouth grew larger and larger until it seemed like it was going to swallow the heavens and the earth. It actually swallowed Lung Shiqi's inferno in one gulp. Roar! The instant the inferno was extinguished, 10 consecutive dragon roars pierced through the clouds. At this moment, 10 divine dragons of different forms were swimming around Lung Shiqi, and they were extremely powerful. He chuckled and said, "Six Directions' spiritual sovereign, are you satisfied with my strength?" Six Directions' spiritual sovereign's expression was solemn. Lung Shiqi's strength had indeed surprised him. Not only was he proficient in saber and sword techniques, but his physical strength was also the most terrifying. The two of them could be considered evenly matched. One had to know that Six Directions' spiritual sovereign belonged to the upper group of mystic comprehending realm cultivators. However, Six Directions' spiritual sovereign had never heard of a mystic comprehending realm cultivator who cultivated the physical body. Where did this person come from? He also knew that it was impossible for the two of them to fight to the death, so there was no way to determine the true victor. This time, he had failed again. Six Directions' spiritual sovereign was extremely depressed. Previously, he had joined forces with many experts from the top sects to break into the imperial capital of the Thunderblaze dynasty. Just as he was about to succeed, a mystic comprehending realm cultivator who cultivated the law of Earth had appeared and directly ruined his plans. This time, he had planned to take over the Blood Garment Pavilion, but another mystic comprehending realm cultivator had appeared. As a result, Six Directions' spiritual sovereign felt that his luck was too bad. Of course, he did not know that the person who had ruined his plans twice was actually the same person. Very good. I did not expect such a powerful expert to appear on the continent. I would like to see if you can protect the Blood Garment Pavilion for a while, but can you protect it forever? Six Directions' spiritual sovereign coldly glanced at Lung Shiqi and the few higher-ups of the Blood Garment Pavilion before disappearing in a flash of divine light. After Six Directions' spiritual sovereign left, everyone in the Blood Garment Pavilion heaved a sigh of relief. This mystic, comprehending realm cultivator had given them too much pressure. The Vice Pavilion Master, Ink Frost Ghostly Man, first ordered someone to bring Hateful Saber away to treat his injuries. He then walked over to Lung Shiqi with a few Heavenly Origin Realm cultivators. The few of them bowed and said, "Thank you for saving our lives, Senior. The Blood Garment Pavilion is unable to repay you. It's nothing. I was only entrusted with the task. If you want to thank someone, you should thank your own family." Also, Six Directions' spiritual sovereign is right. I can only protect you this time. You should think about what to do next time. Farewell. Senior, please wait. May I ask who asked you to help? Ink Frost Ghostly Man could not help but shout. However, the mysterious expert had already left and only left behind a single word: King. Chapter 9:13. King? What did that mean? Was it a disciple of the Blood Garment Pavilion with the surname Wang? Or was there a king in his codename? Wu Xiang immediately knew what it meant. Was this not referring to the king of the Western Wilderness, Lung Shiqi? He finally understood everything from the beginning. Lung Shiqi might have thought that it was inconvenient for him to appear directly. Otherwise, it would be too ridiculous. Lung Shiqi did not want to give up the credit of helping the Blood Garment Pavilion survive this disaster. That was why he did this. Wu Xiang recalled that Lung Shiqi had asked for the position of a pavilion leader candidate. He seemed to have understood Lung Shiqi's plan. A glint flashed across the Ink Frost Ghost's eyes. He vaguely thought of Lung Shiqi, but the pavilion leader's injuries were more important now. He said, "Don't make wild guesses. Let's check on the pavilion leader's injuries." At the mention of the pavilion leader, everyone tensed up and hurried back to the sect. At this moment, Hateful Blade was lying on a stone bed, and Elder Mu was treating his injuries. After everyone entered, Elder Mu said softly, "The pavilion leader's meridians are all shattered. Fortunately, his heart meridian was protected and his life was temporarily saved. However, at this point, he seemed to want to say something but stopped himself. This made the others very anxious. Elder Gu said angrily, "Old Wood, why are you still keeping us in suspense? Hurry up and say it." Sai, the one who attacked, was a Six Directions spirit supremacy. Even if the pavilion leader protected his heart meridian with all his might, there was still a weak power of law that could not be removed. It won't be long before the pavilion leader's heart meridian is completely destroyed and he will die. That despicable Six Directions spirit supremacy. To think that we trusted him. All right, this is the law of the jungle. Now, let's think of a way to save the pavilion leader. We're best at killing people. Elder Mu is the best at saving people in the sect. Elder Mu, what do you think we should do? Elder Mu pondered for a moment and said, "There are two ways we can try. First, if we combine our strength, we might be able to pull out that weak power of law. However, there can't be any mistakes in the process. Otherwise, we will personally kill the pavilion leader." "No," Elder Bone immediately objected. "Like I said just now, we're the best at killing people. The art and spirit skills that we cultivate are all focused on explosive power. With so many people, it's impossible for us to be that precise. What's the other way? Also, the two of us can forcefully guard the pavilion master's heart meridian. However, this will consume a lot of our cultivation base. Furthermore, we can't maintain it for long. At most, we can only delay it for 1 or 2 years. That's fine too. Now, you and I will protect the pavilion master's heart veins. The rest of you will split up." Elder Gu turned around and said, "Black Frost Ghost Man and Little Bone will stay behind to take care of the situation. Although the sect has survived this crisis, it does not mean that there will be fewer troubles in the future. Wu Xiang and Hua Luiyue will spare no effort to find someone who can save the pavilion master. The time limit is 3 months. After 3 months, we will switch. Everyone nodded when they heard this. This seemed to be the best solution. At this moment, Wu Xiang stuck his head out and said, Lord Bone Elder. Elder Bone flicked his sleeve and said unhappily, if you have something to say, just say it. Don't be so hesitant. Wu Xiang was already in the Heaven Origin realm, but he was still like an ordinary disciple in front of Elder Bone. He laughed and said, I want to say that I know someone who might be able to save the Pavilion Master. Everyone immediately looked at him. Elder Bone even pressed on Wu Xiang's shoulder and asked excitedly, Who is it? Say it. It's my disciple, Lung Shiqi. Lung Shiqi? Everyone present naturally knew the importance of Lung Shiqi in the Bloodseed plan. None of the top forces of the Thunderblaze dynasty's 9 eastern counties came. That was all thanks to Lung Shiqi. They also knew that Lung Shiqi had broken through to the Heaven Origin realm not long ago. His talent was monstrous. However, this was not enough to save the Pavilion Master, right? Could it be that this person was also a divine doctor? Everyone looked puzzled. Wu Xiang explained, based on what Elder Mu said, the greatest threat to the Pavilion Master is the power of the law. As far as I know, Lung Shiqi once obtained a treasure that contained the law of heaven and earth, and he could barely control it. Only the law can deal with it. Lung Shiqi might be able to get rid of the law in the Pavilion Master's body. That makes sense. Elder Bone was even happy when he heard this. He slapped Wu Xiang hard a few times, causing him to grimace. Then why aren't you going? I'll go now. More than a month later, Lung Shiqi followed Wu Xiang to the Blood Garment Pavilion, travel-worn. The master and disciple had a tacit understanding. Wu Xiang saved the Pavilion Master and gave Lung Shiqi a huge credit, allowing him to build up his reputation in the sect. All the higher-ups of the Blood Garment Pavilion came to welcome Lung Shiqi at the same time. It was not only an acknowledgement of his strength, but also a sign of gratitude and hope for him. Seeing Hateful Blade, Lung Shiqi frowned deeply, causing everyone's hearts to jump to their throats. I'll give it a try first. I might not succeed, Elder Mu said. It's very rare to have a chance. Go ahead and do it. Lung Shiqi put on an act and took out a stone plate. As soon as he took it out, everyone immediately felt a faint trace of the power of the laws of Earth. He really does have a treasure of the law. In fact, it was easy for Lung Shiqi to get rid of the law in Hateful Blade's body. However, he still struggled for a long time. He was sweating profusely, causing everyone to worry. After several hours, Lung Shiqi suddenly sat on the ground and said with joy, it worked. As soon as he finished speaking, Hateful Blade opened his eyes. Elder Mu and the others were overjoyed. To them, Hateful Blade was not just the Pavilion Master. On the contrary, this Pavilion Master was not very competent. This was because Hateful Blade was the most promising person in the Blood Garment Pavilion to reach the mystic comprehending realm. Even Six Directions Spirit Supremacy had personally said that Hateful Saber was indeed qualified. If Hateful Blade reached the mystic comprehending realm, the Blood Garment Pavilion would definitely be able to reach a higher level and become a transcendent sect. Elder Mu and the others were about to speak when Hateful Blade said weakly, although I'm unconscious, I know what you've done and said. Lung Shiqi, you saved my life and stopped the top sect in the 9 eastern counties. You even invited a mystic comprehending realm expert to force Six Directions Spirit Sovereign to retreat. As the Pavilion Master, I have nothing to repay you with. The only thing I can do is fulfill my promise. Then, Hateful Blade stood up with difficulty. He looked at all the higher-ups and said slowly, from today onwards, I will step down from my position as the Pavilion Master and recommend Lung Shiqi to succeed me as the Blood Garment Pavilion Master. His words did not surprise anyone, but they felt that it was a little rushed. Wu Xiang was the first to speak. I agree that Lung Shiqi should succeed me as the Pavilion Master. Hua Luiyue also nodded. When the others saw that the 2 Pavilion Master candidates had agreed, they had nothing else to say. As for Feng Shamo, he was no longer qualified to speak. Ink Frost Phantom said solemnly, Lung Shiqi has the status of a Pavilion Master candidate and has made contributions that no one can match. I have no objections to him succeeding me as the Pavilion Master. However, there are not many disciples who know about Lung Shiqi's existence. Even 90% of the disciples in the main sect do not know who you are. If you recklessly succeed me as the Pavilion Master, I'm afraid that many disciples will doubt you. That's easy. Elder Gu added, let him be an elder first. Also, if the Pavilion Master decides to step down from his position, let the candidates compete with each other. In the end, Lung Shiqi will emerge victorious. A few of them nodded. It was just a formality to let Lung Shiqi show his face and make his presence known. Lung Shiqi gladly accepted. Entering the Blood Garment Pavilion was easier than he thought. Chapter 9:14. Once he had control of the Blood Garment Pavilion, coupled with the intelligence network of the Dark Thunder Guards, nothing in the Thunderfire dynasty could escape his eyes and ears. Moreover, the Blood Garment Pavilion was indeed a good sword. Many things could be done quietly. Otherwise, the Six Directions' spiritual supremacy would not have coveted the Blood Garment Pavilion. After this matter was settled, Lung Shiqi had been staying in the Blood Garment Pavilion. He did not hide his identity. After all, the Six Directions' spiritual region knew his true identity. Now that both sides had fallen out, the Six Directions' spiritual region might reveal the Blood Garment Pavilion secret. Instead of being passive, it was better to admit it directly. When the disciples of the Blood Garment Pavilion found out that Lung Shiqi, the king of the western wilderness of the Thunderfire dynasty and one of the 4 Dark Thunder Guards, was actually their elder, they were all extremely shocked. Their jaws dropped to the ground. Therefore, when the higher-ups announced that Lung Shiqi was the Pavilion Master candidate, not only did no one question him, he was even supported by many disciples. In their opinion, Lung Shiqi, Wu Xiang, and Hua Luiyue were all at the heavenly origin stage. In contrast, Lung Shiqi was famous and was deeply worshipped by many disciples. The Blood Garment Pavilion also deliberately promoted Lung Shiqi's role in the Blood Seed plan. They even gave him most of the credit for getting through this crisis. Of course, this was the truth. After half a year, Lung Shiqi finally stood out from the other Pavilion Master candidates and became the new Blood Garment Pavilion Master. The Battle of the Blood Garment Pavilion could be said to have shocked everyone in the world. They had never seen such an anticlimactic affair. Originally, the Blood Robe Pavilion was the public enemy of the whole country. However, there were not many people who actually went to attack the Blood Robe Pavilion. What was even more ridiculous was that those who went were scared back without even fighting. It was the biggest joke in the world. Before the Blood Garment Pavilion finished eating, the Six Directions' spiritual region announced to the world that the king of the western wilderness, Lung Shiqi, was actually a spy planted by the Blood Garment Pavilion in the Thunderfire dynasty. Before anyone could verify it, the Blood Garment Pavilion announced that Lung Shiqi was the new Pavilion Master of the Blood Garment Pavilion. Now, there was no need to prove it. He could just admit it himself. Everyone in the Thunderfire dynasty focused their attention on the Blood Garment Pavilion once again. They wanted to see how the Thunderfire dynasty would deal with this matter. He was a prince with a different surname, one of the 4 chiefs of the Dark Thunder Guards, but he was actually a spy from a sect. This was a ruthless slap to the Thunderblaze dynasty's face. They were all guessing whether the Thunderblaze dynasty would annihilate the Bloodcloak Pavilion in a fit of rage. In truth, this was what the ministers of the imperial capital had suggested. Lung Shiqi had used his past incarnation to control Lei Haoyin and bring out Six Directions' spirit sovereign. He admitted that he already knew Lung Shiqi's identity. In fact, Lung Shiqi was a double agent. The dynasty had secretly joined forces with the Blood Garment Pavilion in order to deal with the real mastermind, Six Directions' spiritual supremacy. Previously, Six Directions' spiritual supremacy had led people to attack the imperial capital. They hated Six Directions' spiritual supremacy to the core. After hearing this explanation, they felt relieved. Lung Shiqi also explained that the Blood Garment Pavilion would share their intelligence network with the Dark Thunder Guards. In this way, the Thunderblaze dynasty would be able to lay out an inescapable net and know all the clues like the back of their hand. Only then did the ministers understand that the Blood Garment Pavilion had been recruited. It turned out that they were on the same side. Since they were on the same side, why would they fight? Therefore, the people outside waited and waited, but the Thunderblaze dynasty did not make any moves. It was as if this matter had never happened. Everyone was stunned. Was this still the domineering Thunderblaze dynasty? From a time the Thunderblaze dynasty decisively attacked the Northern Wei dynasty and seized 2 counties, then secretly annexed the 6 nations of the Western region. The Thunderblaze dynasty gave everyone the impression that they were domineering. However, the dynasty did not have any reaction to Lung Shiqi's public betrayal this time. This was too strange. Not doing anything was equivalent to a tacit agreement. Therefore, Lung Shiqi became the Dark Thunder Guard's 4th chief supervisor, the Western Wilderness King of the Western Wilderness County, and the Blood Garment Pavilion's Pavilion Master, one of the 7 absolutes in the world. These 3 extremely uncoordinated identities appeared in the same person at the same time. It was as strange as it could be. Lung Shiqi, who had become the Pavilion Master, did not care about the rumors outside. He was very busy. First, he had to take over most of the Blood Garment Pavilion's authority. He would not give up almost all of it like Hateful Blade. At the same time, he kept Ink Frost Ghost as the Deputy Pavilion Master. Firstly, Ink Frost Ghost's experience in managing the Blood Garment Pavilion was unparalleled. With him around, Lung Shiqi would have a much easier time. Secondly, Ink Frost Ghost did not covet the position of Pavilion Master. He could be trusted. Previously, the Blood Garment Pavilion had given up on all the county's branches. They cannot be rebuilt yet. After all, the power of the branches was equivalent to a second-rate force. If they were targeted, it would be a waste. Therefore, Lung Shiqi built 2 large branches on the east and west sides of the Thunderblaze dynasty. Wu Xiang and Hua Luiwei guarded them respectively. It was not until more than a year later that the Blood Garment Pavilion finally settled down. During this time, apart from being busy with the Blood Garment Pavilion, Lung Shiqi did not forget to continue recruiting new members of the underworld. The first was Bing Shang. Bing Shang's talent was not ordinary. She also had 0 ice. More importantly, she had a good temperament. After becoming a member of the underworld, she had also received the title of King Chujiang. With the help of legacy cultivation methods and exclusive treasures, she had reached the unity of heaven and man realm. The other was the previous Pavilion Master of the Blood Garment Pavilion, Hateful Blade. Hateful Blade's personality was similar to Xiaoming's. He did not care about power and was too lazy to say anything. He only wanted to pursue greater power. Moreover, Lung Shiqi had discovered that Hateful Blade had a chance to break through to the mystic comprehending realm after healing him. He estimated that if Hateful Blade joined the underworld and obtained legacy cultivation methods and treasures, the probability of him breaking through to the mystic comprehending realm would be very high. After Lung Shiqi made this request, Hateful Blade agreed without hesitation. He wanted to return Lung Shiqi's favor and also to obtain greater power. Hateful Blade obtained the legacy of the 10 kings of hell, King Bian Sheng. After doing this, Lung Shiqi could finally proceed to the next step of his plan. He contacted Nine Leave in the underworld and asked, "Nine Leave, what's the situation in the far north wastelands?" Nine Leave looked at him strangely and said, "Now, the far north wastelands is divided equally. 2 demon venerables each have half. They are Demon Venerable Liphone and Demon Venerable Silverwing. They each have 7 or 8 demon kings under their command. I am one of the 8 demon kings of Demon Venerable Silverwing, 9 Leave Demon King. Why are you asking this? Do you want a medal in the far north wastelands?" Lung Shiqi raised his head and smiled. "Only 2 demon venerables. You're right. I have the intention to make a trip to the far north wastelands." After making up his mind, Lung Shiqi left his unborn Dharma body in the Blood Garment Pavilion. His original body was directly teleported to the far north wastelands that was filled with demon beasts through 9 Leave. Chapter 9:15. Coming to the northern wastelands, Lung Shichi's biggest feeling was that the spiritual energy here was extremely poor. It could be imagined that there were very few other resources. No wonder the demon clan was exiled here. Ordinary spirit cultivators would not cultivate in such a place. At this time, 9 Leave was still muttering. What do you mean there are only 2 demon sovereigns? Lung Shichi also discovered that there seemed to be a faint smell of blood in the air of the northern wastelands. 9 Leave explained, "This is the territory that I recently occupied. Not long ago, there was a battle. Battles are very common in the northern wastelands. Seems like you're doing well in the northern wastelands. Of course, among the 8 demon kings under the silver-winged demon sovereign, I am ranked 5th. 9 Leave coughed dryly. You must know that I have only been in the northern wastelands for a short period of time. Among the demon kings, I am already ranked 5th. I don't know how many demon kings are envious of me." Yes. Demon King 9 Leave is the most powerful. Lung Shichi complimented. "Let's get down to business. I want to see that silver-winged demon sovereign." 9 Leave revealed an expression of as expected. "Humph. I knew you had a plan. Unfortunately, you can forget about it. The hatred of the demon clan in the northern wastelands towards the human clan is much stronger than the demon Miasma mountain range. If the silver-winged demon sovereign sees you, he will want to slap you to death." That might not be the case. Lung Shichi smiled mysteriously. Then, an extremely pure demon chi surged out from his body. His eyes turned a pale green, revealing a terrifying gaze. 9 Leave's eyes focused. She actually saw the faint image of a wolf behind Lung Shichi. She knew that it was not some heaven and earth dharma idol, but the true body of a 7th-ranked demon sovereign. This was what surprised her the most. Lung Shichi was clearly a human. How could he have the characteristics of a 7th-ranked demon sovereign? Although he did have a trace of demon clan's bloodline, he could only be considered a half-demon. But Lung Shichi in front of her was a genuine demon clan. Knowing Lung Shichi's background, 9 Leave was puzzled. "How did you do it?" Lung Shichi asked back. "There are all kinds of strange things in the world. It's just a little trick. Do you think it could be hidden from the silver-winged demon Venerable? Your bloodline and even your soul are pure demons. Even demon Venerable Silverwing couldn't have seen through it. You really came prepared. That's good. Oh, by the way, there's someone you might know." Lung Shichi summoned Qing-er. Qing-er greets Master. Qing-er first bowed to Lung Shichi. When she raised her head and saw 9 Li, she opened her mouth and said in surprise, "Sister 9 Li, you are." Little Qing. 9 Li sized up Qing-er and also recognized her. "You are a Tier 7 great demon." "Yes, all thanks to Master's help." "Master," 9 Li looked at Lung Shichi from the corner of his eyes. "I didn't expect you to be interested in this. Little Qing is my good sister in the demonic Miasma mountain range." "What did you do to her?" Lung Shichi waved his hand and said, "Cough, don't think too much. You see, I have the identity and the power. Now I am qualified to meet Demon Venerable Silverwing. I can introduce you, but you should at least tell me what your plan is. I don't want to be sold by you without knowing. Actually, it's nothing. I just feel that it's not a good idea to keep fighting in the extreme northern wilderness. It's better to unify it." 9 Li heard this, and the corner of her mouth twitched slightly. "You really don't give up until you say something shocking. You, a fake demon, want to unify the extreme northern wilderness?" Lung Shichi shook his head. "Not me. It's Demon Venerable Silverwing. It may also be you in the future." 9 Li was thoughtful. The tacit understanding between her and Lung Shichi made her understand. "I understand. You want to help Demon Venerable Silverwing unify the extreme northern wilderness and then use the power of the demon race to do things. When we are strong enough, we will replace them." "That's right. The idea is good, but I want to know how you will help Demon Venerable Silverwing unify the extreme northern wilderness. The two Demon Venerables have many 7th-ranked demons under their command. The Demon King is only the most powerful among them. Even with you and Little Ching, Demon Venerable Silverwing's power won't improve qualitatively. Or are you a little arrogant after breaking through to the Heaven Origin Realm? 9 Leave questioned. Who said I'm in the Heaven Origin Realm? Lung Shiqi moved his finger, and an invisible force suddenly fell down like Mount Tai. 9 Leave and Ching. Er's bodies were shining with demon light, but they were still smashed. Their bodies sunk into the ground for dozens of feet. 9 Leave wasn't injured, but she was a little embarrassed. However, she didn't care about this at all. Her eyes were shining with surprise. This is the law of gravity. You are already in the mystic comprehending realm. Kind of. Lung Shiqi couldn't explain his realm, so he could only answer like this. 9 Leave glanced at Lung Shiqi with a strange expression. Are you really a human? You can't be the reincarnation of an ancient almighty, right? She guessed correctly. Lung Shiqi smiled. It's possible. Maybe I'm the reincarnation of the desolate heaven demon monarch. Tisk, even if the desolate heaven demon monarch reincarnated, he couldn't be a human. With your power, you can indeed influence the battle between the two demon venerables. I'll take you to see Demon Venerable Silverwing. As for how to persuade him, it's up to you. 9 Leave took Lung Shiqi and Ching, and flew quickly in a direction. Along the way, 9 Leave kept explaining the situation of the extreme northern wilderness to Lung Shiqi. The extreme northern wilderness was now divided equally. Demon Venerable Silverwing and Demon Wind occupied the east and west respectively. Both sides fought fiercely almost every day. Under the two Demon Venerables, there were several Demon Kings. These Demon Kings were equivalent to human cultivators in the late stage of the Heaven Origin Realm. Each Demon King controlled more or less demon tribes and corresponding territories. 9 Leave had the Scorpion Tribe, the Spirit Fox Tribe, and the Bear Tribe. This situation had been maintained for hundreds of years. During this period, both sides had their advantages and disadvantages, but they had never been able to destroy the other side and unify the demon race. It could also be said that as long as Demon Venerable Silverwing and Demon Venerable Lifeng couldn't determine a winner, neither side could destroy the other. In addition, the extreme northern wilderness was indeed worthy of the name wilderness. Lung Shiqi followed 9 Leave and flew for thousands of miles. All he saw were withered trees and desolation. Sometimes, wars would break out between tribes just for food. The living environment could be said to be extremely harsh. Even so, the Imperial Beast Abode and Blood Beast sect outside were still active in capturing demon beasts in the extreme northern wilderness. No wonder the demon race hated the human race so much. 2 days later, the three headed north and came to a snowy mountain. 9 Leave pointed to the peak of the snowy mountain and said, Demon Venerable Silverwing is cultivating there. I have to go and inform him first. Lung Shiqi scanned with his divine sense and didn't find any demon race nearby. There are also no tribes. Could it be that there was only one Demon Venerable Silverwing in this snowy mountain? Chapter 9:16. Lung Shiqi could not help but ask, is there no one else besides Silverwing Demon Venerable? Why does Silverwing Demon Venerable need someone else here? 9 Leave suddenly turned her head. Don't think too much. Silverwing Demon Venerable's strength is not comparable to an ordinary mystic comprehending realm cultivator. Lung Shiqi shrugged. I'm just asking casually. Don't think too much. 9 Leave sighed slightly. As Lung Shiqi's strength increased by leaps and bounds, she could not do anything about it. Soon, an elegant female voice came from the snowy peak. Blue Wolf Demon Venerable came from afar. Excuse me for not going out to meet you. Blue Wolf Demon Venerable was a name Lung Shiqi casually gave himself. Hearing this voice, he realized that Silverwing Demon Venerable was actually a female. Lung Shiqi stepped out and instantly arrived at the snowy peak. There were no glorious palaces or mysterious formations here. There was only a vast flat ground, and an elegant woman dressed in simple and elegant clothes was standing there. At first glance, she was as pure as the snowy mountain, but did not have the feeling of being thousands of miles away. Strangely, she was carrying a sword on her back. This was the first time Lung Shiqi saw a demon using a sword. If he did not know her identity, he would think that she was a sword cultivator disciple of some sect. Lung Shiqi cupped his fists and said, "I've long heard of Silver-Winged Demon Venerable's name. Today, I finally get to meet you. The Blue Wolf bloodline has long been extinct. I didn't expect blue wolves to still exist in this world. It's really a blessing for the demon race." Silver-Winged Demon Venerable's voice was soft and gentle. "I was born in the demonic Miasma mountain range. Later, I mingled with the human race for a period of time. After making a detour, I learned that the demonic Miasma mountain range no longer existed. I could only return to the far northern wilderness to find a place to settle down. This was also what he and Nine Leave had agreed before. After all, she had to have a background." Sigh. Silver-Winged Demon Venerable sighed softly. "The far northern wilderness is almost barren and has no resources. Why did you think of returning? It's better to be free outside." Lung Shiqi knew that Venerable Silver-Wing was testing him. He said with a solemn expression, "How can the outside world be called free and unfettered? An 8th-rank Venerable Demon is full of treasures. Those humans can't wait to tear me into pieces. If it weren't for his ability to conceal himself, he would have died long ago. This is the only place where I don't need to disguise myself, especially when I see the Silver-Winged Demon Venerable. It makes me feel like I'm bathing in a spring breeze." "Huh." The Silver-Winged Demon Venerable smiled. "As expected, after being in the human race for so long, you speak differently from those boorish fellows. Little Julie told me your purpose for coming here. Unfortunately, I have no intention of unifying the Northern Wastelands. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you." "No such thoughts." Lung Shiqi did not believe it at first. The Silver-Winged Demon Venerable and the Gale Demon Venerable had been fighting for so many years, and the hatred between them was as deep as the sea. Even if the Silver-Winged Demon Venerable did not want to unify the demon clan, he should not have rejected him for revenge. He looked at Julie, and Julie sent him a message. "Don't look at me. I don't know anything." The Silver-Winged Demon Venerable took the initiative to explain. "If you return to the Northern Wastelands, you can indeed influence the situation here. You can help me, Venerable Gale, or even establish your own sect. All of these will cause the Northern Wastelands to fall into a huge turmoil. This is not what I want to see, and it is not what Venerable Gale wants to see either. Everyone has ambition, especially Liphone. But if you go to him, he will not agree with you. Because the Northern Wastelands needs the current situation. You don't need to make any changes. This is the best." Lung Shiqi's mind changed rapidly. He speculated, "The resources of the Northern Wastelands are extremely scarce, and the low-rank demon clan's reproduction ability is very strong. It won't work in the long run. Therefore, the fight between the two demon venerables is actually to reduce the number of low-rank demon beasts so that the demon clan and the resources will always be in a delicate balance. Therefore, for so many years, even if one of the demon venerables has the advantage, they have not swallowed the other party." The Silver-Winged Demon Venerable praised, "Venerable Tsonglang is wise. The fact is just as you said. If the Northern Wastelands are unified, the number of battles will naturally decrease. As the number of clans gradually increases, the resources of the Wastelands will be completely consumed sooner or later. By that time, our clan will have to fend for itself." Lung Shiqi shook his head and said, "This is a good idea indeed. But forgive me for being blunt. How long can this last? Hundreds of years? Thousands of years? Tens of thousands of years? The renewable resources of the Northern Wastelands are very little, and they are decreasing every moment. Even if you are trying your best to control the number of Demon Clan, it can only be regarded as a temporary measure. How can I not know what you just said? But there is no other way. The Demon Clan is declining, and there are already two top sects guarding the entrance of the Northern Wastelands. The Northern Wei dynasty is also eyeing the Northern Wastelands covetously. We can only delay as long as we can. The Silver-Winged Demon Venerable's tone was full of helplessness. The Demon Clan had been exiled to this place for hundreds of thousands of years. During this period of time, it was not that they had not resisted. The closest they had been to success was 10,000 years ago. Unfortunately, the Tsang Yuan Sword Saint had appeared out of nowhere and turned the situation around by himself. From then on, the Demon Clan had completely declined and could only struggle at death's door in the Northern Wastelands. Lung Shiqi frowned. He did not expect that the Demon Clan Venerable, who was known for his viciousness, would actually lose all his vigor. He muttered to himself, "The situation in the Northern Wastelands cannot be delayed. My goal is actually the same as the two Demon Venerables, but I will not let the Demon Clan fend for itself. I will lead the Demon Clan out of the Northern Wastelands and let the Demon Clan have a place in the Falling Star Continent. Therefore, the unification of the Northern Wastelands is imperative. As long as we can rush out of the Northern Wastelands, all the problems will naturally be solved. Silver-Winged Demon Venerable, don't think that I am delusional. You might say that once the Demon Clan dares to leave the Northern Wastelands, they will be surrounded and annihilated by all the spirit cultivators in the world. But if I tell you, the Northern Wastelands only faces the Northern Wei dynasty. Silver-Winged Demon Venerable, do you believe me or not?" Although Lung Shiqi had not been in the Northern Wastelands for long, for what he had seen and heard, he roughly understood that the Demon Clan was not weak. On the contrary, they were stronger than any of the peak forces. They could even suppress transcendent forces. 2 Demon Venerables, a dozen Demon Kings, and dozens of 7th-level Great Demons. This kind of strength far surpassed the Northern Wei dynasty. After all, the Northern Wei dynasty only had Chun Xen, who was at the Common Profound realm. If the Demon Clan only needed to face the Northern Wei dynasty, then the Northern Wei dynasty would definitely lose. But how is that possible? Lung Shiqi said mysteriously, "I have been in the human clan for many years, not for sightseeing. In the near future, the Thunderblaze dynasty and the Falling Star dynasty will definitely fight. We will take this opportunity to rush out of the Northern Wastelands and occupy the Northern Wei dynasty." Silver-Winged Demon Venerable obviously did not believe him. If not for Lung Shiqi revealing his Demon Venerable aura, she would have already chased him away. Even if everything goes as you expect, what about after that? Even if the other 2 dynasties are fighting, the transcendent forces and peak forces in the world will definitely join hands to besiege our clan. Who will stop them? Lung Shiqi waved his hands, and a starry sky universe appeared behind him. Vaguely, powerful auras came from it. He said word by word, "I will stop them." Chapter 917. Silver-Winged Demon Master and 9 Leave stared blankly at the starry universe behind Lung Shiqi. The starry river flowed, and the scary thing was that there were hundreds of powerful auras. The aura of a Tianyuan realm expert. To be honest, Silver-Winged Demon Master, I once met a descendant of the Star Clan by chance. The Star Clan hates the human clan more than we do. The power they have accumulated over hundreds of thousands of years is unimaginable. I have joined forces with the Star Clan and decided to take back the Falling Star Continent. In the future, the Star Clan and the Demon Clan will be the masters. As for the human clan, they are only fit to be our food. Star Clan. The Silver-Winged Demon Venerable looked surprised. In fact, the Star Tribe was the main culprit who banished the Demon Clan to the Northern Wilderness. Later, the Star Clan was destroyed by the Human Clan, which made the Demon Clan happy. However, hundreds of thousands of years had passed, and the Demon Clan had almost no hatred for the Star Clan because it was the Human Clan who had been slaughtering and enslaving them. So now, the Star Clan and the Demon Clan had a common enemy. It seems that you came prepared. Silver-Winged Demon Master seemed to have loosened up. Based on the power that Lung Shichi had shown, it was indeed enough to fight against the human clan. But I can't believe you. Also, the human clan has more Tongxian realm experts than you know. If those people join forces, our clan will still be defeated. Lung Shichi pulled a long face and said with a trace of disappointment, "There is nothing that can be done without taking risks, let alone such a great plan to restore our clan. I came with sincerity, not to see such a cowardly silver-winged demon master. If you don't believe me, then I will fight against both demon masters at the same time. Even if I have to lead the remaining demon clan, I will fight against the human clan." Speaking of this, Lung Shichi turned around and pretended to leave. "Even if I die in battle, I don't want to die like a dog." Silver-winged demon master was struggling and hesitating. Her will had long been extinguished, but Lung Shichi's words had ignited the flames in her heart. Everything was as Lung Shichi had said. Even if the demonic beasts managed to maintain a delicate balance, they would slowly die out after 1,000 years. Since that was the case, he might as well take a gamble. Moreover, if she did not agree, it would not be difficult for Lung Shichi to unify the far north wilderness with the cultivation of the demon Venerable and the power of the descendants of the Star Clan. Venerable Silverwing's heart began to waver. Silverwing Demon Sovereign, take your time to think about it. I'm going to look for Wind-Breaking Demon Sovereign. If he's the same as Silverwing Demon Sovereign, then we can only meet on the battlefield. Wait, I can't give you an answer yet, but I can go with you. Lung Shichi felt a little relieved when he heard this. This meant that the Silver-Winged Demon Venerable had begun to side with him. Although the Silver-Winged Demon Venerable hadn't agreed, she was secretly helping Lung Shichi since she was willing to go with him to find Demon Venerable Live Phone. It could be said that the first step to success had been taken. In fact, before coming to the far north wilderness, Lung Shichi wanted to choose Venerable Silverwing to help him defeat Demon Venerable Lai Phone and indirectly unify the demonic beasts. Who would have thought that the two demon venerables of the demonic beasts had already reached a tacit understanding and formed an unspoken rule? Lung Shichi could only change his words temporarily. Anyway, his ultimate goal was the same, which was to use the demonic beasts to stall the Northern Wei dynasty. He told Venerable Silverwing that there would be a war between the Thunderblaze dynasty and the Starfall dynasty. This was not a lie. Since he supported the Zhu Lu country to annex the Beilu country and the Yuezhi country, his plan had already begun, including entering the Blood Cloak Pavilion and now in the far north wilderness. He was preparing for his ultimate goal. Demon Venerable Lai Feng's location spanned more than half of the far north wilderness. When Venerable Silverwing and Lung Shichi found him, he was lying on the ground with a few wine jars beside him. Before they got close, they could smell the pungent smell of alcohol. Venerable Silverwing frowned and said with displeasure, "A dignified demon venerable is like a drunkard. What a scandal! She had specially brought him here, but who would have thought that she would see Demon Venerable Lai Feng in such a state? It was really a disgrace to the Demon Venerable." Lung Shichi cupped his hands and said, "Demon Venerable Lai Feng is a true man. I'm Tsang Lang. I'm here to pay my respects." Demon Venerable Lai Feng on the ground did not pay much attention at first. After he glanced at him, the smell of alcohol on his body disappeared. His red eyes stared at Lung Shichi, and he said in surprise, "When did another rank 8 Demon Venerable appear in the far north wilderness?" Venerable Silverwing briefly explained Lung Shichi's origin and purpose. Lung Shichi also repeated what he had said to Venerable Silverwing. Lung Shichi thought that he would have to spend more time talking, but unexpectedly, Demon Venerable Lai Feng roared, "Damn it! I can't wait for heaven to eat those humans." "Don't be rash. You'd better think carefully before you speak," Venerable Silverwing reminded him. Demon Venerable Lai Feng scratched his beard and said, "Tsang Lang, it's not that I don't want to believe you. Although you and I are not of the same clan, your appearance is too mysterious. I won't let all my clansmen die rashly." Lung Shichi's expression became serious. He stretched out 2 fingers and pointed to the sky. Demonic light shot out from his eyes, and he said, "Both demon venerables are here. I can swear to heaven that if I betray the demon clan, my body and soul will be destroyed, and I will not enter the samsara." Heavenly Demon Oath. This was an oath that only rank 8 demon venerables could make with the help of the laws of heaven and earth. Once violated, the demon venerable would suffer a backlash from the laws of heaven and earth and die without a doubt. This action made the 2 demon venerables let down their guard against him. Lung Shichi continued, "It's okay if you don't believe me. Let's sit down and talk while drinking." As he spoke, he took out a jar of wine. The words "drunken life" were written on the red paper. This was something that he had won from a lottery a long time ago. He had tasted a little of it before. It was known as the best wine in the world. This was the perfect opportunity to cater to his taste. Lung Shichi opened the lid. Once Demon Venerable Lai Feng saw the wine jar, his eyes almost popped out. His nose twitched. He stretched out his trembling hands and said, Let me have a taste." Crash! Lung Shichi pointed with his finger. A stream of water shot out from the jar. Demon Venerable Lai Feng opened his mouth and gulped it down. As the wine entered his stomach, Demon Venerable Lai Feng's body felt light. After a long while, he suddenly slapped his thigh and hooked onto Lung Shichi's shoulder. He shouted at the top of his lungs, "Old brother Tsong, you are my blood brother. As long as there is enough wine, I promise to fight wherever you point me to." Lung Shichi smiled and said, "Old brother Crevice, don't worry. I have plenty of wine here." Beside him, Demon Venerable Silver Wing covered his face and remained silent. This was too embarrassing. Since old brother Lai Feng has agreed, why is Demon Venerable Silver Wing still hesitating? Then we'll do as you say. However, if I find out that you're lying, don't blame me for turning against you. Lung Shichi thought to himself, it's done. Now that everything was ready, all that was left was to wait for the right time. Chapter 918. Time flew by, and 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. In the past 10 years, the Starfall continent did not change much, and the various parties were still fighting endlessly. The biggest thing in the past 10 years was that the 6 countries of the Western region no longer existed and were replaced by the Shizhou country. The Shizhou country that had annexed the Jushur country and the Golden Tribe country. As for the Toba country, it had secretly submitted to the Thunderblaze dynasty and even backstabbed the Golden Tribe country, allowing Carol to easily sweep through the 5 countries. Other than that, nothing else happened that shook the continent. 10 years later, Lung Shichi's face did not change at all. At this moment, he was standing beside Ozu with a solemn expression. Ozu's eyes were tightly closed, and illusory images flashed around him. Not long after, his movements paused, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Lung Shichi revealed a surprised expression. Ozu was now in the heavenly origin realm, and his deduction skills were superb. The thing he was calculating could actually backfire on him. Ozu wiped away the blood indifferently and said, "The holy city is probably going to appear soon, and I have roughly calculated the location. It's in the Starfall dynasty. Your deduction of the location is really specific. The Starfall dynasty's territory was much larger than the Thunderblaze dynasty's. Moreover, he had the bloodline of the Star Clan, so he could roughly feel that it was in that direction." This sentence was equivalent to not saying anything. Ozu pursed his lips and said, "It's already very good that you can calculate the location. You've prepared for the holy city for 10 years. God knows what kind of storm you will stir up inside. I won't join the fun this time." Lung Shichi put his hands behind his back and raised his head slightly. His gaze seemed to be able to see through the sky. 10 years of preparation, just for this day. I hope you won't disappoint me. Don't pretend to be deep here. I advise you to quickly send a few people from the underworld to the Starfall dynasty to wait. The members of the underworld could teleport to each other at any time. As long as they were scattered in all directions of the Starfall dynasty, no matter where the holy city appeared, they would be able to arrive immediately. This time, aren't you going to give me a divination? Forget it, you won't die anyway. Lung Shiqi shrugged and disappeared. He came to the underworld. 10 years later, the underworld had changed greatly. Currently, underworld had become a true world of darkness. The vast and boundless land was divided into many regions with Fengdu Necropolis as the center. All kinds of hell creatures lived in these regions. After they died, they would be directly reincarnated in the underworld and would often be reborn endlessly. After some time had passed, many powerful creatures had appeared in the underworld. The strongest among them were already stronger than Unity of Heaven Realm experts. Most importantly, Hades was already at the 8th stage. In the past 10 years, Lung Shiqi had found 2 Tongxian Realm experts who had been living in seclusion. With the help of Hateful Blade and Tu Deng, they were able to kill the 2 Tongxian Realm experts and upgrade the Mansion of the Dead. That's right, Hateful Blade was already in the Mystic Comprehending Realm, but he hadn't announced it yet. The Bloodcloak Pavilion had 2 profound insights. If the world knew about this, they would be scared to death. After Hell had been upgraded to Tier 8, it could indeed be described as a world. That was because Hell had actually given birth to the power of law. The power of law was the foundation of a world. As the master of Hell, Lung Shiqi could use the power of law, it will hear. Although he couldn't use it in the outside world, it was enough for him to comprehend the power of law in the outside world more easily. Lung Shiqi contacted a few people through the Netherworld Lamp illusory body. Immediately, a few huge illusory bodies appeared. Ghost Emperor Yao Yi, Ninely had broken through to Tier 8 Demon Venerable a year ago. Now, he was the 3rd Demon Venerable of the Demon Clan, Ninely Demon Venerable, Ksiddhagarbha Bodhisattva, Tu Deng. Tu Deng's cultivation realm was still a mystery. He was a bit similar to Lung Shiqi. Both of them had broken through their original realm. Lung Shiqi was sure that Tu Deng's strength was definitely above the Tongxian realm. King Bian Sheng, Hateful Blade, the previous pavilion master of the Blood, Cloak Pavilion, stood there like a blade between heaven and earth. And Meng Tianzong. Yes, Meng Tianzong was also a member of the underworld. She was also the strongest fighter in the underworld, a reaching heaven state fighter. Lung Shiqi wanted Meng Tianzong to join the underworld because he valued her strength the most. At the same time, he wanted to control Meng Tianzong through the underworld. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. After joining the underworld, Meng Tianzong not only recovered quickly, but also improved. No one knew how strong she was now, because no one was a match for her. Everyone, Luan Yuan Cheng, has deduced that the sacred city is about to appear in the Starfall Dynasty. In order to seize the opportunity, I hope you can go to the Starfall Dynasty immediately to guard it. They weren't talkative people. They also knew the secret of the sacred city. Its importance was self-evident. Tu Deng, Hateful Blade, and Ninely nodded and left. Only Meng Tianzong was left. She said, Lung Shiqi, the appearance of the sacred city will definitely attract all the strong fighters in the world. I'm sure I'm not the only reaching heaven state fighter on the continent. On the Starfall continent, reaching heaven state fighters were at the top of the pyramid. A reaching heaven state fighter could support an extraordinary force. Reaching heaven state fighters had become legends. However, Lung Shiqi didn't believe that there were no other reaching heaven state fighters in the world. If someone of this level wanted to hide, no one would be able to find him. Of course, even if you passed by him, you wouldn't be able to recognize him. If I enter the sacred city, I'll pretend to be a reaching heaven state fighter. So you can't underestimate anyone. There might be a reaching heaven state fighter hiding in the sacred city. Lung Shiqi agreed. He had played the pig to eat the tiger before, so he had to be careful. Before entering the sacred city, he had to make all the preparations. No matter whether he could or could not come back from the sacred city, he still had to do what he had set out to do. Then, he found the past Dharmakaya, Lei Haoyan, the emperor of the Thunder Dynasty. With Lung Shiqi's power of law, Lei Haoyan's cultivation had also broken through to the Sky Origin realm. At that time, it was shocking. After all, there weren't many emperors in the Sky Origin realm. He used Lei Haoyin's identity to quietly mobilize the various armies of the dynasty. Some experts also hid in the dark. The Blood Clothing Pavilion sent out a large number of assassins to infiltrate the Starfall dynasty from all directions. These things have been going on for 10 years, and now they were about to explode. The demon clans of the Northern Wastelands had joined forces for the first time. They were ready to kill the human race at any time. After making sure that everything was arranged properly, Lung Shiqi personally went to the Starfall dynasty. He was near the imperial capital at the center, waiting for the sacred city to descend. 2 months later, boundless golden light quietly illuminated the entire falling star continent. Everyone in the world could see the majestic sacred light as long as they raised their heads. Most people even knelt down and kowtowed. It was a pilgrimage. Those high-level spirit cultivators were shocked at first, but then they were overjoyed. This was a great opportunity. Those who knew the truth, and those who didn't, all the spirit cultivators in the world gathered towards the Starfall dynasty. Chapter 919. The source of the golden light was in the Starfall dynasty's Lingbei County, and Tudeng was nearby. When the holy city appeared, Lung Shiqi and the rest immediately teleported over through the underworld and found the holy city. The holy city was bathed in the golden light, and one could barely see its shadow. However, when he got close to the holy city, he was blocked by the light. Even Meng Tianzong, with his Ascension realm cultivation, could not break in. Lung Shiqi said in a deep voice, "This golden light is very strange. It clearly does not contain any power, but we can't break through. We can't take advantage of this opportunity. What a pity." Meng Tianzong stretched out his hand and grabbed a strand of golden light. This golden light contains Saint Force, but it is dissipating very slowly. So we still have to wait for a while before we can enter. From now on, there will be experts coming over every day. It can be considered a grand occasion for the continent. Lung Shiqi was also helpless. Since they could not break in, they could only wait. Fortunately, the underworld was strong enough. Even if he faced a Ascension realm expert, he was not afraid. As time passed, Lingbei County became the focus of the world. Spirit cultivators in the continent rushed to Lingbei County like moths to a flame, especially when some people who knew ancient secrets found out that this was the holy city. Wind Whisper Tower also bought this information. Since Wind Whisper Tower had this information, it meant that everyone in the world knew about it. In less than a month, Lingbei County was almost filled to the brim. This was when most of the Northern Wei dynasty and Thunderfire dynasty's spirit cultivators had not arrived. The Starfall dynasty acted as the host and placed a large number of experts in Lingbei County. They even mobilized tens of thousands of troops to maintain order. Those elusive Sky Origin Stage cultivators seemed to be a bit common now. It seemed that they could be seen everywhere. 90% of the top sects in the world had either arrived or were on their way. After 2 months, the number of people gradually decreased. At this time, all the experts in the world had gathered in Lingbei County. Every sect occupied a piece of land, waiting for the holy city to truly open. The ones closest to the holy city were naturally the top sections. A total of 50 transcendents and top forces were lined up in a row. Many Sky Origin realm experts were walking back and forth. Just one look was enough to brag about for a lifetime. More than half of the Thunderfire dynasty's Imperial Consecration Hall came, led by Xian Haoying, a peak Sky Origin realm expert. Lung Shiqi's identity was West Desolate King. This time, he did not follow the Thunderfire dynasty's Imperial Consecration Hall, as it was more convenient for him to move alone. The current commander of the Dark Thunder Guards, Yuna Gao, and the commander of the Discipline Commission, Gu San, were in the ranks of the Hall of Worship. Imperial Consecration Sects, Imperial Consecration Dynasties Consecration, Hall, Imperial Consecration, Hall's Consecration, Hall. Hals's imperial consecration, Hal's imperial's consecrations, Hall imperial. The Black Frost Ghost Man, Bone Demon, Wu Xiang, and Hua Luiwei from the Blood Garment Pavilion had all arrived. The Hall Master of the Supreme Saber Hall, Fu Yingxi, and the Vice Hall Master, Yu Shu, as well as the Purgatory Demon Sect Master, Purgatory Demon, and the Vice Sect Master, Ming, also occupied advantageous positions. In addition to these sects, there were scattered sky origin stage cultivators on the other side. They were all masters who lived in seclusion. Lung Shiqi knew Qing Zhu and Honglian among them. Lung Shiqi looked around and found there were over 500 sky origin stage cultivators there. 99% of the sky origin stage cultivators were here. Not only were there heaven origin realm cultivators, there were even a few Tongxian realm cultivators. Old Man Xiao from the Thunderfire dynasty, Chun Xin from the Northern Wei dynasty, and 2 from the Starfall dynasty had come. Actually, everyone had long felt that it was impossible for the Starfall dynasty to only have one mystic comprehending realm cultivator. One of them was Wumai Yuanqing, a well-known Tongxian realm expert. They were not familiar with the other person. After asking around, they found out that he was Ing Qinhe, a member of the older generation of the Starfall dynasty's royal family. He had just entered the Tongxian realm. The Starfall dynasty did not want to expose Ing Qinhe's existence so early. He would be most useful in the dark. However, there were too many experts in Lingbei County. Not only were there hundreds of sky origin stage cultivators, but there were also more than 10 Tongxian realm experts. Wumai Yuanqing alone was not enough to intimidate so many Tongxian realm experts. Apart from these 4 people, the 4 Saint Spiritual Realms Lord, 6 Directions Spirit Supremacy, Luo Ying Spirit Supremacy, Huang Wei Spirit Supremacy, and Wu Ji Spirit Supremacy were all here. The experts from the 3 dynasties and the 4 Saint Spiritual Realms were all gathered here. None of them liked each other. For example, Old Man Xiao and 6 Directions Spirit Supremacy almost fought each other. Also, the 4 Saint Spiritual Realms were not so harmonious. For many years, they had been fighting over who was the true ruler of the human race, and they did not agree with each other at all. On the other hand, the Nether Temple and Pure Yang Temple, which were both transcendent forces, kept a low profile. The Nether Temple only sent the Nether Temple's sacred lord. He stood alone in midair. His aura was extremely cold, and no one dared to approach him. Of course, he was not the Nether Temple's sacred lord. Instead, he was the Tongxian realm expert that Lung Shiqi released from the Nether Temple's tomb, Yu Julin. The Pure Yang Temple was even more low-profile than the Nether Temple. Over the years, people from the Nether Temple would occasionally appear. However, the Pure Yang Temple had not appeared for hundreds of years. Only one person from the Pure Yang Temple came. No one present knew him. He was an old man in a white robe. He stood on the ground, as usual, with an indifferent expression. The Yin Yang Temple had not appeared in public for many years. At first, they thought that they were 2 opposing forces. However, they did not know each other after meeting each other. They did not even interact with each other. It was obvious that the others had thought too much. There were 10 Tongxian realm experts in the world's sect ranking. There were also 3 Tongxian realm experts who had hidden themselves from the world. With 13 Tongxian realm experts gathered here, if not for the birth of the holy city, it would be impossible to see such a shocking scene. 6 Directions Spirit Sovereign felt that it was strange. The people who had spoiled his plans twice did not come. One of them cultivated the law of earth, while the other had an invincible body. However, he knew all the Tongxian realm experts present. Those 2 were not among them. There was also a reincarnation master from the Thunderfire dynasty who had yet to appear. He did not know if he was guarding the Thunderfire dynasty or hiding in the dark. The golden light surrounding the holy city became fainter and fainter. Countless spirit cultivators surrounded the holy city in circles. It cannot be described as tens of thousands, but hundreds of millions. Every day, the atmosphere in Lingbei County became more and more tense. No one wanted to miss the great opportunity of the holy city's birth. Even if those low-level spirit cultivators knew that they were not fated with the holy city, they would not have lived their lives in vain after witnessing such a grand scene. Until one day, the golden light faded into a thin layer of golden mist. Six Directions' spirit sovereign suddenly burst forth and successfully passed through the golden light. The battle for the holy city had begun. Chapter 9:20. Six Directions' spirit sovereign opened the curtains to a battle. The other Tongxian realm experts immediately followed closely behind and forced their way into the golden radiance. The Sky Origin realm experts also tried, but unfortunately, no one succeeded. As expected, the stronger one was, the higher the chance of success. The only special one was Old Man Xiao. He tore open space with a single hand and opened up a spatial passageway in the golden radiance that led directly to the holy city. Let's go. Old Man Xiao led the Thunderfire Dynasty's Sky Origin realm experts into the passageway. Seeing this scene, everyone exclaimed loudly, "Wow, that's the Thunderfire Dynasty's Old Man Xiao, the Tongxian realm expert. How'd he do it?" A spirit cultivator from the Thunderfire Dynasty said proudly, "Ignorant. Old Man Xiao cultivates the space law, which is one of the highest laws. It's easy for him to shatter the void." Lung Shiqi was also in the passageway. As long as he entered, it would mean that everyone from the underworld had entered as well. It had to be said that the space law was indeed very powerful in this situation. After walking through the passageway, he arrived at the golden radiance. At this moment, he was in a huge square that was shining with golden radiance. The other 12 Tongxian realm cultivators couldn't help but frown when they saw Old Master Xiao walking in with his entourage. No one expected that the Thunderfire Dynasty would be the first to gain the upper hand. Lung Shiqi looked over. The place they were in was very big, and it would not be a problem to accommodate hundreds of thousands of people. In front of them stood a majestic wall that stretched endlessly. In the middle of it was a huge golden door that was dozens of feet tall. That was the door to the holy city. Between the golden door and the square, there were 4 stone pillars that were dozens of feet thick and towered into the clouds. However, everyone's gaze was fixed on the door, but no one dared to step forward. No one knew if there were any arrays here. As the saying went, whoever made the first move would lose. It was better to wait and see. Six Directions' spirit sovereign's vertical eye swept across the surroundings. His gaze paused on the 4 stone pillars for a moment before moving to other places. This action was not hidden from the others. Luo Ying's spirit sovereign gracefully turned around and said, "Six Directions' spirit sovereign's illusion breaker spirit eyes can see through all things. You must have discovered something." Six Directions' spiritual senior cursed in his heart, "This shameless woman." Spirit exalted Luo Ying noticed his little actions, but she didn't send him a sound transmission. Instead, she openly spoke about it, causing him to become the center of attention. The Mystic Comprehending Realm cultivators and the Thunderblaze Dynasty's Heavenly Origin Realm cultivators all looked at Six Directions' spiritual sovereign at the same time. Old Master Qiao stroked his beard and laughed in his heart. Indeed, Six Directions' spiritual supremacy was the center of attention wherever he went. It just so happened that all the attention was diverted to him. Huangwei's spiritual sovereign sneered, "We are now on the same side. Only by entering the holy city as soon as possible can we find more opportunities. If the hundreds of Heaven Origin stage cultivators come in, you won't be able to deal with them even though you are a Tongxian stage cultivator." Not bad. The last of the 4 sacred spiritual realms, Spirit Sovereign Wu Ji, added, "Liuhe, no matter what we discover, we can share it. Right now, the most important thing is to enter the holy city. If I find any clues, I will take the initiative to inform you." Disdainful, Six Directions' spiritual sovereign thought to himself, "What can an ignorant man like you find?" Left with no choice, Six Directions' spiritual sovereign could only say, "Look carefully at the patterns on the 4 stone pillars. I'm not sure about the others, but I'm very familiar with the pattern on this one. Everyone looked over and saw that the stone pillar he was pointing at was engraved with the pattern of gods. Just looking at it gave people the urge to kneel down and worship it. Long Shichi immediately recognized that it was the Six Directions divine statue that Six Directions spiritual sovereign had once used. Spirit Exalted Luo Ying said softly, "This stone pillar is actually engraved with the falling cherry divine art. This is the Emperor's might divine sword, and the 8 ultimates martial arts." The 4 sacred spiritual realms domain masters all saw that the engravings on the stone pillars were actually the strongest spiritual techniques that had been passed down in their spiritual realms for a long time. Wuma Yuanqing of the Starfall dynasty stepped forward and said, "Legend has it that the holy city was built by the 4 sages. If I may be so bold, I guess that these 4 stone pillars are the key to entering the holy city." No one present was a fool. They quickly realized that perhaps only the combined transmission of the 4 sages could open the gates to the holy city. Wuma Yuanqing continued, "I believe everyone has guessed it. The 4 of you are the true inheritors of the 4 sages. It is only reasonable that you are the ones who open the gates to the holy city. Even so, if the 4 of us can really open the gates to the holy city, you will be the ones who will benefit. No matter how you look at it, it is not worth it." Spirit Exalted Luo Ying's red lips moved slightly as she calculated. "That's right." Spirit Exalted Wu Ji agreed. "We will exhaust all our spiritual energy to open the gates, but you will be able to take the opportunity to enter the holy city. It will be a loss." The mystic comprehending realm cultivators looked at each other and secretly communicated with each other. Wuma Yuanqing said, "The 4 of you are right. How about this? If you can really open the gates to the holy city, as long as the 4 of you are the first to arrive, we will not fight for any of the treasures inside. Of course, there will only be one chance." Spirit Exalted Six Directions' eyes flashed. This meant that they could at least avoid a battle. After all, their opponents were all mystic comprehending realm cultivators. This was already a huge advantage. The 4 of them did not push their luck and nodded. Shortly after, the divine light behind Spirit Exalted Six Directions shot into the sky, and 6 heavenly divine statues descended. Spirit Exalted Luo Ying's hands flew and instantly formed countless spiritual seals. Countless gorgeous cherry blossoms floated and formed a flower god. Spirit Exalted Emperor's might formed a sword with his fingers, and in an instant, a brilliant heavenly might descended from the sky. A divine sword filled with divine light stood in mid-air, as if it could slash the heavens and split the earth. Spirit Exalted Wu Ji split into 8, and 8 identical illusory figures executed 8 spiritual techniques at the same time. Their fists broke the heavens, and their palms split the 4 seas. Their might was unparalleled. Immediately after, something that shocked everyone happened. The flower god formed by the 6 Directions divine statues and Spirit Exalted Luo Ying merged with Spirit Exalted Wu Ji's illusory figure, as if it was alive. The Emperor's might divine sword also automatically flew into the hands of the last illusory figure. These 4 powerful spiritual techniques could actually undergo such a transformation. Spirit Exalted Six Directions and the other 3 were so shocked that they could not close their mouths. As the saying goes, kings do not meet kings. Even though the 4 saint spiritual regions did not get along well with each other, there had never been a situation where the 4 of them fought each other. These 4 spiritual techniques had never appeared at the same time, so even they themselves did not know that these 4 completely different spiritual techniques were actually related to each other. Just as everyone was in shock, they heard a weak sound. When they turned their heads to look, they saw that the tightly shut gates of the holy city had unknowingly opened by a sliver. Things were indeed as they had guessed. The 4 saint spiritual regions were the key to opening the holy city. Spirit Exalted Six Directions was delighted. Since they needed the power of the 4 saint spiritual regions, to enter the holy city, it would definitely be beneficial to them inside the holy city. Chapter 921. The series of changes caused everyone's hearts to tremble. However, at this moment, the golden gate of the holy city suddenly opened, and a blinding divine light suddenly shone out. The speed of the divine light was extremely fast, so fast that even the mystic comprehending realm cultivators could not dodge in time. Fortunately, the divine light did not harm them. Instead, it pulled them into the holy city. The moment the divine light spread, 6 directions Spirit Sovereign glanced at Lung Shiqi, and killing intent rose in his eyes. Lung Shiqi only saw a golden flash in front of his eyes, and he arrived in another world. What greeted him was incomparably dense origin energy of heaven and earth. It was not spiritual energy, but origin energy of heaven and earth. The origin energy of heaven and earth here was actually several times denser than the outside world. With more origin energy of heaven and earth, it meant that the sky origin realm cultivators here would be stronger. The strength of a sky origin realm cultivator was determined by how much origin energy they could mobilize. For example, Xian Haoying, who was at the peak of the sky origin realm, could probably unleash combat power close to that of a mystic comprehending realm cultivator here. Similarly, the power of law here was obviously more obvious than the outside world. Everyone's strength had increased, which meant that everyone was still the same. Lung Shiqi looked around, and all he could see were strange creatures. At the very least, he had never seen them on the Starfall continent. The holy city seemed to be no longer on the Starfall continent. Where could the passage be? Lung Shiqi was most concerned about the passage out of the continent. If he were to search for it alone, it would undoubtedly be like looking for a needle in a haystack. He directly pulled Meng Tianzong, 9 Leave, Hateful Blade, Tu Deng, and the others into the holy city through the mansion of the dead. The few of them split up to search for clues. Lung Shiqi took advantage of the fact that there was no one around and released a large number of underworld beasts from the mansion of the dead to search around. He might be able to find some clues. He casually flew in a direction. Along the way, he encountered some natural treasures, but he did not even look at them. These things were no longer important to him. While he was searching for the passage, the other powerful cultivators had their own fortuitous encounters. In a deep, icy lake, a hunchbacked old man in a fiery robe was surrounded by flames. The entire lake was evaporating, and the water vapor dispersed, revealing a monster. It turned out that there was a huge snake that was dozens of feet long coiled in the deep pool. It looked like a snake, but it wasn't a snake. It looked like a flood dragon, but it wasn't a flood dragon. Although it had the body of a snake, there was a horn on its head, and its eyes flashed with lightning. As the cold pond evaporated, the giant beast roared in anger and soared into the air, charging towards the Canon Elder. The old man gently waved his hand, and in an instant, clouds of fire covered the sky. One after another, giant flaming hands descended from the sky. As the old man clenched his fist, the giant beast let out a wail, and its body was crushed into pieces of charcoal. The smell of burnt flesh and blood filled the surroundings. The old man pointed his finger, and a long sword suddenly shot out from the deep pool and landed in his hand. The giant beast had been guarding this sword. He lowered his head and saw that the sword was covered in rust. The spirit power in the old man's body burst forth. With a flash of fire, the rust disappeared, and a long sword shone with a sharp edge again. The old man gently stroked the sword, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Its sharpness is comparable to a level 7 artifact weapon, but the power it contains is extremely strange. If it's not an artifact spirit, what could it be? Sure enough, there are treasures everywhere in the holy city. He was about to continue searching for other fortuitous encounters when a figure suddenly appeared. It was 6 directions spirit supremacy. 6 directions spirit supremacy, saw that the old man had obtained an extraordinary treasure as soon as he entered the holy city. He was not envious at all. Instead, he smiled and said, "Brother Enigma Flame, you obtain an artifact weapon as soon as you entered the holy city. You have great fortune." It turned out that this old man was the reclusive, mystic, comprehending, itinerant cultivator, Enigma Flame Taoist. 6 Directions, Spirit Supremacy. Enigma Flame Taoist immediately became vigilant. "You and I have always minded our own business. You look for your fortuitous encounter, and I'll look for my treasure. Goodbye." "Wait. This holy city isn't a city at all. It's like another world. Currently, there doesn't seem to be any danger. There are even natural treasures everywhere. However, the strength of a single person is weak. Since you and I are so close to each other, it must be fate. Moreover, there is no enmity between us. Why don't we join forces? Also, I have a deal here. I wonder if Brother Enigma Flame is willing to listen." 6 Directions, Spirit Supremacy pretended to be mysterious. Enigma Flame Taoist stopped in his tracks. Among the 13 mystic comprehending cultivators who entered, his strength was below average. However, 6 Directions Spirit Supremacy was definitely one of the strongest. If he could join forces with him, it would naturally be a good thing. However, Enigma Flame Taoist had long heard that 6 Directions Spirit Supremacy was an ambitious person. Joining forces with him would be like asking a tiger for its skin. He was somewhat hesitant. 6 Directions Spirit Supremacy took the opportunity to say, "Brother Enigma Flame might have some misgivings. It's all right. Why don't we make a deal first? You help me kill a person, and I'll help you once. How about that? Kill someone?" Enigma Flame Taoist shook his head without much consideration. If even 6 Directions Spirit Supremacy could not kill someone, his strength could be imagined. He would not get involved in this mess. "Brother Enigma Flame, don't be in a hurry to refuse. The person I want to kill is only at the Heaven Origin Realm. Moreover, he only broke through to the Heaven Origin Realm 10 years ago." 6 Directions Spirit Supremacy said with cold, killing intent. "This person is Lung Shichi, the Thunderblaze Dynasty's king of the Western Wilderness. Brother Enigma Flame, just ask around and you'll know that I'm telling the truth." Heaven Origin Realm? Enigma Flame Taoist was even more puzzled. It's easy for 6 Directions Spirit Supremacy to kill a Heaven Origin Realm cultivator. There's no need for me to do it. Through my Illusion Breaker Spirit Eyes, I can roughly see his location. The Thunderblaze Dynasty's Old Man Xiao is not far from him. If I were to make a move, I would definitely be stopped. Therefore, I purposely lured Old Man Xiao away so that Brother Enigma Flame can take the opportunity to instantly kill Lung Shichi. Only then can I resolve the hatred in my heart. 6 Directions Spirit Supremacy had revealed Lung Shichi's identity before he became the Bloodcloth Pavilion. 6 Directions Spirit Supremacy wanted to use the Thunderblaze Dynasty to destroy the Bloodcloth Pavilion. Who would have thought that the Thunderblaze Dynasty did not care at all and did not even make a move? After careful investigation, 6 Directions Spirit Supremacy discovered that when he led his men to attack the Imperial capital, there was a low-level spirit cultivator who overestimated his strength who came to stop him. It was that person who helped the Thunderblaze Dynasty stall for time, allowing the mystic, comprehending realm cultivator who cultivated the law of Earth to arrive. And that person was Lung Shichi. He had planned for a long time, and this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity was ruined because of a Lung Shichi. Later on, Lung Shichi even succeeded as the pavilion master of the Bloodcloth Pavilion, causing 6 Directions Spirit Supremacy to hate him to the bone. Now that he had come to the Holy City, he had to kill Lung Shichi. Enigma Flame Taoist calculated in his heart. Killing a mere Heaven Origin Realm cultivator was as easy as flipping his hand. If he could exchange this for a favor from 6 Directions Spirit Supremacy, it was definitely the best deal. This kid actually dared to anger 6 Directions Spirit Supremacy. Don't worry, he won't live for long. Chapter 922. Lung Shiqi naturally did not know that Six Directions' spiritual sovereign had set up a trap to kill him. He was still searching for the legendary passageway. However, at that moment, he sensed a powerful fluctuation in front of him. Someone must be fighting for something in front of him. This was a common occurrence, so he did not want to interfere. He scanned with his divine perception, and his expression changed slightly. There were 3 Tongxian realm experts fighting in front of him. They were not fighting each other, but 2 of them were working together to kill one person. That person was the Thunderfire Dynasty's Tongxian realm expert, Old Master Qiao. The one attacking him was the Starfall Dynasty's new Tongxian realm expert, enchanting, and the Divine Lotus Fairy, a reclusive rogue cultivator. Both of them were from the Starfall Dynasty, so it was normal for them to work together. Old Master Qiao cultivated the law of space, but he could not fight 2 people at the same time. Enchanting laughed loudly. Old Master Qiao, admit defeat and hand over the spirit flower. Otherwise, don't blame us for being merciless. Once you're injured, you might die in the Holy City, and the Thunderfire Dynasty will be in danger. You know you're not a match for us, yet you're still so stubborn. It seems that the spirit flower is really important to us. The Divine Lotus Fairy was dressed in white, and her beauty was unparalleled. Old Master Qiao's expression was gloomy. He had found a treasure not long after entering the Holy City, and he had spent a lot of effort to kill the monster guarding the treasure. In the end, he was ambushed by enchanting and the Divine Lotus Fairy just as he obtained the spirit flower. What's the point of relying on numbers? Lung Shiqi appeared on the scene, and the 3 of them immediately stopped what they were doing. Those who dared to interfere in their battle were undoubtedly Tongxian realm experts. They turned around and were stunned. The Divine Lotus Fairy did not recognize Lung Shiqi at all, and enchanting only recognized him after some hesitation. However, the 2 of them looked at Lung Shiqi as if they were looking at an idiot. A mere Heaven Origin Realm expert dared to interfere in the battle of 3 Tongxian realm experts? Was he courting death? You're the Thunderfire Dynasty's king of the West, Lung Shiqi. You're so young, yet you don't know how to conceal your strength. Whatever. Killing you along the way can be considered as getting rid of a lackey of the Thunderflame Dynasty. Enchanting has sneered, his killing intent surging. Old Man Qiao was also shocked. Lung Shiqi, why are you here? This is not a place you can come. Leave. In his heart, Lung Shiqi was the pillar of the next generation of the Thunderflame Dynasty, and he could not afford to lose him. Unexpectedly, Lung Shiqi shook his head. There are many people who want to kill me, but I'm still alive. You treat me like an idiot, and I feel the same way about you. You can't even detect my presence here. Idiot. As soon as he finished speaking, Lung Shiqi turned into a streak of black light and appeared in front of the Divine Lotus Fairy in an instant. Boundless energy of death condensed, and a sword of death appeared in his hand. As the sword pierced out, it was as though the gates of hell had been opened. Boundless energy of the netherworld covered the sky and swept across the world. Sword Tao of Death. The 3 metaphysical realm experts were shocked. Lung Shiqi's power was definitely at the metaphysical realm, and it was even stronger than enchanting's, who had just entered the metaphysical realm. He had been hiding his cultivation all this time. Naturally, the 3 people present had different thoughts. First, Old Man Qiao was more surprised than shocked. Lung Shiqi was actually at the metaphysical realm, which meant that the Thunderflame Dynasty had another stabilizing force. What made him feel even more strange was that he was extremely familiar with this Sword Tao of Death. This was clearly the Sword Tao of the Master of Samsara. At this moment, Old Man Qiao finally understood that the Master of Samsara was Lung Shiqi. In other words, Lung Shiqi had broken through to the metaphysical realm more than 10 years ago. But how old was Lung Shiqi at that time? Old Man Qiao couldn't help but sigh. The younger generation will surpass us in time. On the other hand, China's expression turned ugly. Lung Shiqi's power was actually stronger than his. Not only would he not be able to obtain the spiritual flower today, but the Thunderflame dynasty's threat in the Holy City would also increase exponentially. What was more terrifying was that the Thunderflame dynasty seemed to have the ability to fight against the Starfall dynasty head-on. Of the three people, the most shocked was of course the divine Lotus Fairy, who was facing the Sword Dao of Death head-on. Unexpectedly, her palm landed lightly, and a dreamlike fantasy country immediately appeared in midair, using the power of a country to suppress the Sword Dao of Death. The surrounding space was compressed. The divine Lotus Fairy's palm seemed to cover an area of the sky, sealing this part of the world within. However, Lung Shichi's Sword Dao of Death had already surpassed the so-called sword moves and spiritual techniques. This was the will of death that he had comprehended in the underworld, and it was as if it was made by nature. Even though it was suppressed by the fantasy realm, it was still full of destructive power. Lung Shichi's eyes bloomed with the light of death, and his Sword Dao of Death reached its peak, instantly causing the fantasy realm to explode. Before the divine Lotus Fairy could retreat, Lung Shichi slashed out with his saber again. The three realms of God, Devil, and Buddha descended, severing the physical body from the outside, the soul from the inside, and the negative karma from the heart. Short-lived, Three Gods Blade World. This series of changes made the three of them unable to react. Just now, it was a terrifying sword that seemed to have pierced out from hell. It was already shocking enough that he could grasp such a terrifying Sword Dao of Death. However, he had suddenly slashed out such a powerful saber strike that could split the heavens and earth. How could he cultivate two completely different laws at the same time? Tongxian Realm. Those who could comprehend a trace of the law of heaven and earth were in the Tongxian Realm. Generally speaking, it was already extremely difficult to comprehend a single law. Thus, more than 90% of Tongxian Realm experts were proficient in a single law. And the Lung Shichi had revealed two types. It was not that there were no experts who cultivated multiple laws, but there had never been one as young as Lung Shichi. The divine Lotus Fairy could barely block the Sword Dao of Death, but she could not block the Three Gods Blade World. She turned into countless white lotuses that surged in all directions, and the Three Gods Blade World instantly cut down more than half of the white lotuses. The divine Lotus Fairy's figure appeared a few hundred feet away. Her face was slightly pale, and her expression was extremely serious. If she had dodged a little slower, she would have been injured. Ing Qinhe immediately wanted to attack Lung Shichi, but old man Xiao blocked him. Ing Qinhe, do you think this old man doesn't exist? Ing Qinhe knew that he could not do anything to his opponent. Lung Shichi had only used two moves to put the divine Lotus Fairy at a disadvantage. Although she was a rogue cultivator, how could anyone who could cultivate to the Tongxian realm be weak? Moreover, she had reached the Tongxian realm 100 years ago. Compared to Ing Qinhe, who had just reached the Tongxian realm, she was slightly stronger. In other words, Lung Shichi was stronger than either of them. In addition, old man Xiao, who cultivated the law of space, was also stronger. If it was 2 against 2, they had no confidence at all. Let's go. Ing Qinhe coldly snorted, then turned and left. The divine Lotus Fairy glared at Lung Shichi fiercely, then left as well. Old man Xiao turned and smiled. Lung Shichi, oh Lung Shichi, you really tricked this old man. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.